Well, happy Friday, folks. You have made it to the end of that second full week of, I can't believe it, already January. We're at 19 January. Is that possible? I mean, it's just a matter of seconds before we're in February. And, President's Day weekend, and then long slog until we get to Easter, and then a little bit of spring break. And then, oh my God, all of a sudden it's the summer again. I mean, the time just keeps slipping away. High today, much lower than yesterday, 30 degrees, low of 10. Tomorrow we shoot up by 50%. We go to 45 degrees. Sunday, 51. You and I both know I never read those numbers before because yesterday the prognosticators came up with something different. I'm just going to stop going beyond 3 days because it's just junk. In fact, I should probably not go beyond yesterday because they just don't know what they're doing. So 30, 45, 51. Sunday may be that last best. I'm going to have to use Sunday to try to finally clean the ice and snow off the driveway, which never gets done because I'm here doing the fun stuff here at 710 KNUS. Weekend coming up. I got to say, I'm looking forward to it a little bit because all we have is just a little bit of baseball. No drill, no anything where I have to go drive somewhere across the planet Earth. It could be one of those weekends where I finally dig out from Christmas. I'm looking at the tree right now. That thing has to go back into a box. I just can't bring myself to do it. I want to figure out a way to get the kiddos up to the National Western Stock Show. Then I keep failing in that commitment. Billy, any chance you guys, the Thorpe team, is going to make it up there?
We will see. This weekend's a little bit complicated. We might be able to, but this may be the best weekend to make that happen. But we'll see.
What else do you got going on, man? You got your RAM. My RAM is up there too.
Yeah, and I got a lot of radio. I've got 3 different shifts that I've got to do, and there are some other things around the house. I got to help my mom if I can get over there. She's got a leaky faucet. Yeah, I got to take a look at that, and we will see. I mean, if we can carve out enough time, yeah, we will try. But I had the first 2 days of this week off, and it seems like I've done 5 days of stuff in 3 days. It's nuts. Yeah.
Well, then you informed me / us that next week you're also going to Didi Mao out of here and not be back for a period of time. What days are you leaving us again?
I'm gone
bastard?
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Yeah, I'm gone for the tail end of the week.
Man.
Yeah. I really want to kind of work it out so that I could maybe take the 29th, that Monday off too. I've got the time.
What is going on with you? I
have all of these days, and they keep knocking me going, hey, how about you use the days? I got a little note in the last year about we'd appreciate it if you'd take some of this vacation. I'm like, oh, okay, sorry about that.
I don't get why they can't just pay you out for it. But
I would like to do that. I would easily, if they would just cut me a check instead of these hours. Oh, I would take that in a second right now.
Absolutely. Have you had in 2024? Have you had a full Monday through Friday shift?
Ooh, I think one, maybe.
I don't.
Maybe the week of the 8th, maybe.
What?
I think that would have been that. I think that's that may be the one. That might be the one. If I had one, that would be it. Other than that, not at all. And I view that as a goal. Now, I feel like you've challenged me. So,
it's not possible now. We're going to have to go back and look.
Let's go back and look.
Maybe it could have been the 8th, but I don't know, man. I mean, I don't know if we've had a full week of the G&B team here
you act like that's
in
a bad
2024.
Thing, but that's not a bad
thing.
The
last full week could have been last year.
Yeah, it could have been. It could have been. And that's not good, but I need a vacation, and I do.
I don't know if need is the right word.
Yes, it is. It is, because I have a tendency to burn myself out, and that's what I do. So that's okay. Like I did this week, I've had 4 nights of trivia, so it's been a busy week, and had a really fun time last night. Shout out to everybody way up north at Molly Brown Distillery. That's where I was at last night. Wonderful, tiny little place.
Where is that?
77th. Area way north. Yeah, so it's from where we are. It's not, if you live up there, it's in the neighborhood. I was offered that gig on the regular, and I said it's just too far away for me to do that all the time, and they start a little bit later. But I'm happy to fill in because the dude that owns it is a fantastic guy. It is really nice to see him and catch up with him, and he has carved out, in my mind, his own little Cheers. It's basically, it's this weird bar that sits in the middle of this industrial complex, and it's just pop all of a sudden there, this little kind of hidden spot. And the groups are friends, they're regulars, everybody that shows up. On 2 different occasions last night, people that were walking into the bar, other people at the bar got up, went over, said, hi, got really excited, and hugged them. That's how they were greeted when they walked in the bar. It is just this neat little community. So if I have to, get my lazy butt and drive through ungodly traffic during drive time, these people suck. But yeah, I'm sorry, you drive time people. That's sorry, it's a personal thing about the traffic. It's a real nightmare to get up there, but to do that, to spend time with him and to see the group, it's really nice. And they all specialize in some really cool cocktails, some really, really amazing bourbon that they do there. So
really,
yeah, it is wonderful.
Are they big tippers or whatever it is that you?
I don't take tips when I'm doing the gig. That's just not my thing. I'm not looking
for
that
say because that's what the boss says. Or?
No, I mean I can take them if I want, but I don't look for that. But it's a matter of just coming in there. And the other thing is and you know me with music, the owner has a very wide and deep musical taste.
Oh my God!
It's a huge.
You saying that. When you slow down over the word, I'm like, where's he going?
Where is he going? Yeah. So it's what sort of extra perks are we getting? No, so what I appreciate about that is the other guardrails that I normally put on myself when I'm going to certain bars, I take those off. I know that I can do whatever I want, and he will lean into it, and he will love it because of and what you do is, and again, with this gig, one of the things that you do is when you arrive at the bar, if it's a new place, you listen, and it takes you about 3 weeks to listen to what they're playing because they're playing what the audience wants. So that is my key. That's my temperature. I listen to what the bar is playing when I arrive, and I've got about 35, 45 minutes at times. And so what are they playing ambiently? What is interacting for their audience? And then that helps me tailor make what my playlist is going to be. But it takes me about 3 weeks to really get a good feel for it. And this dude's crazy. The thing where I knew that he and I were going to get along great is it was in the second week I was out there, and he did the old early 80s rap song, Jump On It. And I'm like, okay, if you know that, you and I are going to click. And so last night I pulled out some things that were kind of unusual. And he's like, this is awesome. And he really enjoyed it. Some old OMD and some things that he hadn't heard in a while. And then he came over at one point and he's like, what is this? Because he hadn't heard of Frank Carter and the Rattlesnakes. So I was able to introduce him to that. And they're kind of fun. So did that. And I had another here. Let me do this for you.
Something got Lance.
Yeah. No. Oh no. That's tomorrow. But thank you. I appreciate you asking. I can check on it. But I will send you that video and picture you asked for. I don't know why, but yeah. So last night I had a question about Apple products. And this was one of the fun things that I did.
Honeycrisp?
No, it was about Apple. Like, when did they introduce Apple AirPods, Apple Pen, the Apple Watch, things like the iPad. And it was, what year was this first released? And it was the Apple Watch. And so since the Apple Watch, and I figured you may get this, I played this song by one of your favorite bands, Imagine Dragons. Now, the people on the stream can't hear it because, ASCAP and BMI.
Oh, they can't?
No.
Because technology.
No, because of royalties.
If I could sing using that dude's voice, the words, I would. But
I know, but why do you play this? If it is the Apple Watch is the answer, why play this song? Which again, everybody knows. What's
the time to begin?
The name of the song is "It's Time."
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why it's great song. And so that's why you play that there.
And did it work?
A couple of people caught it, and then the one that they missed, and I was like, "What?" I was super surprised. It was what country routinely consumes the most oil and gas on the planet? And of course, then you go with this song. And I'm dancing to this, and the people on the stream can't hear it.
It's just I would guess the country of Madagascar.
No, this is the President's United States of America. Phenomenal three-piece band. Yeah, it's us.
Oh,
yeah. But again, how do you not know "Lump" by President's United States of America? Phenomenal.
But I would know the song by sound and some of the lyrics. But if you ask me to go beyond that, I mean, listen, I don't have that kind of depth. Ask me about 70s TV shows. We're in a different world. But
yeah. Well, speaking of the 70s, you know who reunites today in history and does a very special concert performance?
No.
Would it help if I said it was the inauguration of Bill Clinton?
The inauguration of Bill Clinton, Fleetwood Mac.
Yes, exactly. Nicely done. I did that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I pulled that up there for you because
Don't Stop Believing. I believe was there.
Yep, that's exactly it. And they did. You know,
that music actually first played, I think, at the end of the convention.
Yeah,
when he got the nomination and the balloons dropped and they were playing it, and I thought, I like Fleetwood Mac. Why?
yeah. I do say that there many times the songs that are used on the presidential campaign or any campaign, regardless, I sit there and go, you've heard it. You've really ruined it for me. Even if I agree with the candidate, I'm like, I can't imagine that when they were, writing this song, that they were hoping that eventually some candidate was going to stand on stage or it was going to be their walk-up music or something.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that Dee Snider, when he was sitting down with Twisted Sister doing We're Not Going to Take It, was like, I hope a lot of politicians use this to walk up on stage. I can't imagine that was his goal.
Yeah, and I know some of them in the past have reached out and said, we're sending you a letter demanding that you stop playing the blood.
Yeah.
I wonder, was there ever, you might know this, was there ever any pushback by the Pretenders for Rush?
Yes. Early on. Very early on, but not horrific pushback. And it's great that you pulled that out because this is one of my favorite stories. Is early on the Pretenders were, I would say, mildly annoyed. And the reason being that is one of their favorite songs. And when they would play it live, people in the audience would start going, Rush, Rush, or people would go, boo. And they're like, it's our damn song. And so they got mad because they couldn't play it for a little bit of time, only because it became political inside the audience, that the audience would either view it. Yeah, the audience would either view that they are endorsing Rush or they would get mad that they played the Rush song. So they were really upset about it. However, Chrissy Hine had a great conversation at one point with Rush Limbaugh. They got along very, very well. And she was like, no. I appreciate the fact that he's using it. We have no beef with the fact that he's using it. It just created a time problem for us. For this moment in time, we had an issue because we couldn't play the song. She never sat there and said, this is Rush's fault, and why did he take our song? And
that's cool.
She was like, no, this is cool. And then he talked to her about why he uses it, and he liked it when he was a DJ, and they really, hit up a nice little friendship. Not like they're sending Christmas cards and stuff, but they got along well.
He's not being called up on stage when they're in town.
Yeah, no, not at all. But I really appreciate the way that she approached it. She's like, it's great that he's using it. It just sucked for us for a little bit of time that we couldn't play it. It's kind of like the artists that talk about, when I get on stage, I don't want to play those big hits. I've been playing those for years. I'm like, I'm
that's
sorry.
what people are coming for.
Exactly. It's like, why do you think you're on the stage in the first place? If you didn't have the big hit, I'm pretty sure most of us wouldn't have paid for the ticket. I apologize, but
I wish I had done more of the concert stuff. But, and I'm still a bit of a miser, but early on, I remember looking at the price of tickets and stuff and thinking, I could buy multiple albums by the same person for that if I'm just going to enjoy the music. But, over the years, you end up doing more things. Of course, I'm not necessarily a country or Western fan. I'm not an opponent, but it does grate on me the fact that this entire genre of music has basically shrugged off any effort related to rhyming words. And like, as long as there are, long as two of the words used have similar sounds, they're like, that's it. They'll just rhyme them. That's really lazy and it's annoying to me. But otherwise, I've gone and the concerts are fun, especially if you get a great performer. So whether it's Garth Brooks out there at I think it was Ball Arena. Yeah, it could have been Mile. I just can't remember when he was out here last. It was Ball Arena. And he filmed a video there for the thing, and it was just really cool. And then Imagine Dragons, Jeff wanted that for his birthday, so a year or so ago we took him to Imagine Dragons up north, and it was really cool. I mean, I've always enjoyed myself, but I can't say that. With one exception, buddy. With one exception, I just gave away some of the kids' future educational support in order to attend Billy Joel in concert coming up this summer.
Oh, yeah. The thing is,
Field.
I was looking at those too, and it's a little too rich for me.
Buddy, you're not joking. In no way do I want people to think I'm swimming around in coin, but I was like, okay, I don't know if this guy's going to make it around the sun one more time. Who knows? I'm not, I don't wish ill on anybody, but that's not true. I don't wish ill on Billy Joel, but I thought I got to see this guy. I had always intended to find a way to go to see he and Elton John with their little Piano Men thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
missed all those things. And so when I saw him coming this summer at Coors Field, I thought, damn, we're just going to do it.
Yeah,
So
God, I really want to see him because my oldest son, Max, is a huge fan. And I introduced him to Billy Joel there. It didn't stick with the rest of the kids. They appreciate some of the songs, but it really stuck with him. And so I really want to try to get out there with him. I'm going to be working behind the scenes to see if I can call in any favors because that ticket price is a little too steep for what I want to pay for them. But I've seen Billy Joel twice live, but this is
you did.
Oh,
so
here's the thing is,
you've been there.
Yeah,
Did
you
the
and I should have been
Billy.
Well,
Did the tickets go down as you get closer to the show?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I went when concerts were affordable. I saw Billy Joel 30 years ago. Wow. I saw him at McNichols Arena. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is, you and I should have been friends in high school. I was a concert rat. I have seen hundreds of shows. And I am not exaggerating.
Well, that means that had to have been part of the pull into radio too, because as you've described it on and off air, the gravy days for radio is when you could park anywhere, do virtually anything, you know. I mean,
but there were also some things. I had a great hookup. One of the other radio places I was working at, I made friends with the woman that works at the front desk, the receptionist, and she and I worked out an agreement that if I was working in the afternoon and it hit 5 o'clock when she was closing down the desk, I would come over, and if any concert tickets were not claimed, they're mine. So I went to a lot of shows for free and some ridiculous
at the
ones.
last minute.
Yeah. Oh, I went down. Okay, last minute. I go down to a concert at the Bluebird. Not sure who it is. Yeah, little tiny place. Yeah, maybe 60 people, maybe in there. And here comes this new band up on stage, and they're like, "Yeah, and this is gonna be good. We're happy about this, and our new album is gonna drop in 2 weeks." We're called the Stone Temple Pilots.
No.
Yeah. In the Bluebird.
Buddy, that's incredible.
In the Bluebird. Yeah. I saw 9 Inch Nails when they were an opening band.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, there are all sorts of there are all sorts of those little things that you see. A lot of these things, you know, these bands really, really early on. I've been in, you know, second row, first row for some shows. I've been, there's some. I saw Tool at Red Rocks.
I wish I had done that more just for the experience stuff. And maybe that's the other thing too, is I'm feeling it more and more.
Yeah.
That somebody just texted and asked if I got a discount for my tickets for AARP.
That's nice.
I didn't even know there was such a thing. Yeah. But no, and I should say this too, when we're shopping for tickets, we're a little more limited in this way, and I don't treat it as a negative. It's just a reality. Is I gotta have a place for Trey and the wheelchair. I mean, it's not like we can just pick any seat that we want. I wish they had more ADA accessible seating closer to the stage. You're usually up on that outer rim, but it's still a great experience. We've done it a couple times.
At least they respect the sight line. At least they've done that. Yep. At least they give them a good sight line. I wish it was closer. I wish there were carve outs for ADA. They were a lot closer. Oh, on a side note, do you remember the old Rainbow Music Hall? Remember that here in town?
Nope, I don't.
You don't? You suck.
I'm sorry.
I'm like disappointed in you as a person at this point. You don't know the rainbow?
But this is a repeated theory. I mean, a theme right here. A theme. Yeah. I am not very good.
No, I actually got a chance. I saw Sinead O'Connor on her very first tour. You know, before she blew up with Nothing Compares to You and did all the weird stuff. On her very first tour, I saw her at the Rainbow. Absolutely incredible show.
Did she have the short hair then? Was she doing?
She had no hair. Yeah, she was bald. Yeah, she was bald at the time, which was
this
incredibly
is before she
unusual.
went on Saturday Night Live and
this is years before.
The picture of the pontiff.
This is like 3 years before that. Yeah, this is years before that. Yeah, long before. In fact, after she does that, she comes back and she tours, and I was so impressed with her. I grabbed my friends and I'm like, we got to go see Sinead. She's gonna be at Red Rock. She can be at Red Rocks. And we go and we sit out and she gets on stage, and after like 40 minutes, she gets mad and walks off stage. And all my friends look at me and go, "You are a jerk, and I hate you." Yeah, because I'm talking this up the entire time. No, of course not. Not in that day. No.
Is that how it works? If you're a performer, you get the money whether you do your full set or not.
At least back then, yeah. And so that was it. And so my friends were like, "You suck. You are an awful person." So I saw there's so many of them. Yeah.
No, I don't have that. I do feel like I'm more into that stage of life though, and I wish I had adopted this earlier. I'm trying to get the kids to see this, that the experience thing. Like I remember being really super miserly on stuff, saying I'm going to save my money for this and I'm going to save my money for that. And then, now you're at that stage of life, in your mid 30s where you're looking back saying, wow, why did I save all that stuff? I should be out there trying to experience stuff. So I've spent more on ridiculous travel than I ever have.
That's smart though. Those are memories.
To show for it.
Well, those are memories. Those are experiences, and you can have a whole bunch of stuff, but then at the very end, if you accumulate all of this, just items, then what's going to happen is at the end of the end of the road, it's just stuff that your kids are going to have to sort through. That's really all it is. That's the only thing.
Stuff they may want.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and Mark Crowley wandered in, and he says he would like to see your Denver birth certificate and social security number to see if you're actually a lifelong resident, because he says anybody that is a lifelong resident and doesn't know Rainbow Music Hall probably should be rounded up and sent to somewhere like
I think
Wyoming.
I have my out then. I have never held myself out to be Denver born. Instead,
you've been here for so long.
This guy was born in Staten Island, New York. So I moved out here when we moved me out here when I was about 2.
Oh.
So yeah, I've been out here for 33 years.
And you still don't know the rainbow.
No, it must have been way before my time. That must have been an old person thing. No wonder Mark knows it.
No, it was big. I mean, oh gosh, 70s, 80s, 90s.
No,
it was a great
70s
little,
and 80s.
I
was in Lakewood,
tiny venue,
young fledgling city struggling to find itself. The police force and Mark will remember this. The police force had turtlenecks and blazers. Okay,
I saw the very first Denver breakdance battle there at the Rainbow Music Hall, where everybody got up on stage and performed to Herbie Hancock's Rocket. Yeah, every damn person. And after a while, you were like, not another song? I mean, and you're sitting there going, you guys are not very original. I mean, the fact they're all doing Rocket, and it got very old. And again, after about the third performer, and it's the same song, the crowd's like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah.
That was it, huh?
Yeah, that was it. But
the breakdancing thing, like, I don't know how these movies got made, but like Breakdancing 2 Electric Boogaloo.
Yes.
I don't know why that's in my head, but
I saw that
came up with that title, it worked.
I saw that on opening day, and it was awful.
No.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's got to be at least of equal gravity to You Don't Know the Rainbow Room. I mean, if you're going to go to the opening day show.
Think about back then, though. Back then, that's big. That's big. The fact that it was Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo, because Breakin'
2.
Yeah.
Good Lord. Billy, texters have come in. Couple questions here. And it's important that we respond to these things early.
Tell them thank you. The rash is going away, and I feel better.
Not that one.
No,
that's a different camera down south. This one is, hey, it's a reference to your bar that you were talking about. This is great advertising for that bar. I want to go. Which one is it?
The one I was talking about that I was at last night is Molly Brown Distillery. It's up on 77th. And again, if that's in your neighborhood, take the time. They do wonderful cocktails. They have amazing bourbon. Also, they've got a deal. And this is just on the side. There's a QR code on these little laminated placards that are on the tables. And if you scan the QR code, you can get 50% off from the local Papa John's if you're ordering pizza. That is a phenomenal deal for food.
It's already figured out where the deals are.
Yeah, it is. Now, normally they'll have a food truck every once in a while, but again, it's this tiny little place that when you walk in, it looks like you've stepped back in time almost 40 years. This looks like a speakeasy. It's got kind of the dark maroon designed wallpaper up there, and there's some fake brick that works there, and behind the bar there's a big window where you can see the distillery behind them, and tall booths and just kind of the right lighting, and it's small. It is not a large bar. It's probably 50% of the size the other places that I go, and it's just a really neat little community. If that's in your area, absolutely swing by. You'll definitely be worth your while. And the bartenders can do some incredible stuff with bourbon and some stuff. I've seen them light things on fire. So ask them about it. Yeah.
On purpose.
Yes, on purpose. It is
not
fantastic.
like a Michael Jackson concert.
No, not like the
Pepsi commercial.
Yeah, not like the Pepsi commercial. Yeah. So yeah, but if you're in the neighborhood, it is definitely worth the trip.
Another text from our friend Corey here. Billy, what was the all capitals, very much like Eric Manning, all capitals, best concert you've attended?
Eek. I don't.
That's hard. That's hard.
It is so hard because there are things that hit for different reasons and in different ways, and they're different shows that mean more. And like one of the ones that still sits very high up the ladder is one of those times where we mortgage some of the kids' future. We were able to get tickets so all of us could go and see Adele, and that was fantastic for the 25 tour. Amazing. Absolutely worth it. That was incredible. There have been some shows. There was a show where I was down. It was at the Fillmore, and this would have been late 90s, and Blues Traveler is playing, And my buddy and I are big fans. We get there early and we get right up against the rail. And John Popper is 2.5 feet from us and is right in front of us the entire time. That's an amazing experience. That was incredible. God, there's so many that you can go back there. I mean, I was at Woodstock 99, so there were certain things there.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was such a thing.
Oh yeah. So there, I mean, we watched the play, put them, light things on fire. There was a 4-night run of Dave Matthews up at Red Rocks where they were doing a fundraiser for Hurricane Katrina. And my brother and I went all 4 nights. And that was incredible because they only repeated one song each night. And that was Louisiana Bayou, because it was how they kind of promoted the fundraiser and everything else. All the other playlists the other night were very, very unique. And that's an incredible experience to be able to go through that. I mean, again, I could keep going and going. It's a tough one.
I believe
that's a tough one. Yeah, I recently saw 21 Pilots at the Ogden. That's seeing 21 Pilots in something that has 1,600 people. That's nuts.
Did they lose someone? Because I thought they used to be 22.
No, 21 Pilots. And you know where the name comes from. I'm sorry, because I'm not linear.
It was from the Rainbow Room.
No, it comes from the story. It's a story, but it comes from a story about
Seuss.
Nope, it comes a story about a guy who is making aircraft engines during World War II, and he's not getting paid enough, and so he skirts some of the materials and doesn't make the engines up to snuff. He finds out later that his engines failed and 21 pilots died because of his failures. He killed 20 people.
This may actually be the premise for, there was a play, maybe a book called All My Sons.
Yep, that's where they get it from. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah, that is very, very interesting.
So I saw them. Yeah. I also saw, and again, people won't get this one, at the same Ogden, I saw Baby Metal. And that was nuts seeing them. Again, not many people will know who they are, but they are a huge rock band out of Japan. They come out of the J-pop kind of culture, and they are huge in the Asian Pacific Rim. You routinely sell out stadiums. And so to see them at the Ogden with 1,600 people, and I got to have an interview with them behind the scenes before the show, which was a lot like trying to visit the president, where we had to get into a band. We literally, this is what happened is we had to shuffle the band into a white Ford cargo van that had blacked out windows while they held sheets up over the doors so the ladies could get out into the van. Then I was ushered into the van. We closed the van and we drove about a block away and parked in this little place so nobody could see us. And we had security standing outside the van while we had our conversation. Yeah, it was nuts, but that's
crazy. Who's the name of this band?
Baby Metal.
Yeah. See, again, there's another podcast / YouTube thing that you need to have. I mean, the tips and tricks in the kitchen, that's one. Snakes and stuff, or have you seen my snake, which I think would be wonderful, especially for all the people that get there for the wrong reasons. Like, I Googled this and I was expecting something else. And then this right here, the Billy's trip through Music Land or something like that.
Oh yeah. In fact,
it feels like those are things that would be well worth it.
Here's a little bit of Baby Metal. This is a song they just dropped in the last 6 months called Metali.
Baby Metal, huh?
Oh yeah.
I think I was going to make them a ringtone, but something happened and I listened to it.
Just wait.
Can't remember. You did turn me on to the Blackpink thing.
Oh yeah, Blackpink's good. This is the next evolution in rock. Here comes Sue.
Is this more K-pop stuff?
They came out of the J-pop. Yeah. They originally J-pop. Yeah. The Japanese versus Korea. But they came out of the J-pop. Yeah. And then they turned into basically Metallica.
Do they have a version of this that's just humor called JK pop?
No.
No, because that could be awesome.
But that is, I mean, just this voice. Just here it comes. Yo, Doggone Show.
Do you know what any of the words mean? Are these subtitled somewhere?
Yeah, no, I know these words. I went and I looked.
What are they?
Doggone Show. Basically, it's talking about going to a music festival. Don't be afraid. Join with the crowd. You can dance with us. You can perform. You can sing. Enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Those lyrics here in America would get you nowhere.
Yeah. Like here, they're talking about singing.
But in But in Japanese, gold.
Right there, it's sing.
The best I can deliver are Watashi no namae wa George Des. And if
wait,
I wanted
listen to
to
this.
ask what time it is,
Yeah.
if they sang Nanji desu ka,
Jeez.
that could probably give you that.
Okay,
That's about it.
Here comes Sue's voice in a sec here. Just gonna do it in a second. I think it is.
How do you know it's Sue? I mean, what are you
It's
doing
Sue metal.
with your free? How do you have free time?
Yeah. No, this is Sue metal. Here it comes. Listen. Oh, there. And this is the third girl in the group. Yeah. Yoko metal. Yeah.
Oh, Hunana. That sounds like very Minions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So good.
Buddy, well, thank you for taking us down that road.
It is so good. Oh, and they do, and it's it's the synchronized J-pop dances and everything else on stage, and it is something different. It is absolutely amazing. But again, I go down very, very weird.
Careful.
Yeah, weird paths. So yeah, but thanks for indulging the music this morning, because that baby metal is something that just that grabs my heart. There's something just so different and so unique about them, and they're just fantastic. Yeah. But
yeah, Billy, that you just know stuff about that, and of course, people now are chiming in on some things. Let me just get through some of these.
Yeah, I don't have text stuff. I'll get to that.
Best concert, Georgia Satellites, Bob Seger. Oh, McNichols
that would
Arena.
Be good. That's
Man,
good.
that would have been a good one.
That'd have been really nice.
Billy, you're really showing your old age. I'm sure you saw Mozart open up for Bach.
Oh, I'm so old. It is ridiculous. And it's absolutely it's silly that like the other day I'm wearing my Taylor Swift hat, and this young woman behind this young woman behind the counter at the store is like, Taylor Swift, remember? I'm like, no, and she's like, she looks at me like, you're too old. I'm like, I appreciate that.
There's a rule.
Yeah, exactly. There's a rule. You're not allowed. Yeah, the thing is, I went to so many shows, and I remember being at those shows and looking at the back of the room going, what are those old guys standing back there for? And now that's
you now.
Yeah, that's me. I'm back in there going, my back hurts. I got to stand up here. I can't go down there.
That's you now.
Oh, totally.
Some more folks, you've given permission for people to throw punches at me. Here's our friend Gina. You must have lived a very sheltered life. Rainbow was at Evans and Monaco.
Yes.
Yep, there it is. Well, I didn't get out to Evans and Monaco because my family wanted me to be safe. And so we always stayed really just west of I-25. I saw Big Country on their first U.S. tour, small venue. I hope Billy appreciates that. This has really become a Billy Lovin' thing. This
Big Country to me doesn't get enough credit. That they're phenomenally talented musically, and they're that band where everybody likes their songs, but nobody remembers really who they are. That's a good call. I would have loved to see them in a small venue.
The bizarre turn that this thing has taken now is nothing's free. We need to know what Billy did to get the tickets.
Which tickets though? Most of them.
People are.
It depends.
People are certain. They've listened to you long enough. They're like, we know what Billy.
Yeah,
really
exactly. We know what he's gonna do. Yeah, some of those are just favors and asking and begging and So yeah.
Listen, let's do this, because yesterday and the day before we hit that like 63, 64 mark, and it became a mad scramble to get through the Thorpe Report, especially because the Thorpe Report is sponsored. And I don't know that people appreciate this. They may not know that the sponsors for You Choose the News may or may not exist, but the sponsor for the Thorpe Report absolutely exists. That's a real awesome company. So I feel like we should give them something, a little bit more than the rush through that we normally do.
Yeah, some attention and some love. Yeah, we can do that. We can step
aside. Yeah. So let's do that to wrap up the week. And I think we get the loser edition this week, although you were only in saddle for 2 days.
But it's 3 days. Yeah, 2 days before this, but I have one that comes into us from last week. And this one right here is brand new, and oddly enough, not intentionally, but dovetails into some of the conversations we just had over the previous 30 minutes. So it'll
wonderful.
It actually call back.
What the hell are we going to do next Friday, Mr. Taking the Day Off?
I don't know. We'll have to see. What you should do is you should instead use this as an opportunity to perform an interpretive dance of what you think You Choose the News looks like. You got a week. You got a week. It's just some stretching. You've been working out. I know you've been working out.
Nobody's going to want to hear that, let alone see it.
You could have a costume, and there could be lighting.
I think I'm going to pass on that. What I think you need to do is you need to train up your fill-ins to at least come up with their version of creativity. It doesn't have to be the Thorpe Report. Obviously, they can't do that, or You Choose the News. But there's something else, like Geronimo's something, or James's something.
Here's the problem.
There's more than one. But
Yeah, I've been asked by some regular people and some professionals to try and not share as much of the crazy as I do. So
What?
that they basically are saying
What the hell's that about?
they don't want, they're afraid that it'll catch. So if I go and I start teaching Geronimo and I work with James and stuff, I feel like I am just creating more mental illness. I figure that's not necessarily what I really should be doing.
I think you may have misheard them.
Yeah.
They weren't talking about not sharing the crazy. There was a different word there.
Thank you.
I don't know
You're the
I don't know what that was. Was something else that we'll have to talk about off air, even in the 6 o'clock hour.
Yes.
You're hearing that. I don't think that's actually what they mean. Look, let's do this. Let's cut away for a break on this Friday edition of the George Show. When we come back, we'll at least be able to take a moderate pace through the good stuff. That's the Thorpe Report, and you choose the news. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
Little Barry Manilow right here on 710 KNUS. It's that time where we get to be made smarter about all the good local news out there with our friend William Thorpe. Billy?
Hey, thank you very much. And yes, this wonderful Barry Manilow, Green Day here. Just remember that Survivor dropped this morning at midnight, their brand new album. It's released now, so it just started today. Yeah, so you can check it out. It's good stuff. Yeah, I've heard about half of it. It's really, really good. Yeah, I'm surprised. They
not political.
No, it is, but it's their previous album. They haven't done politics since American Idiot, really. And their previous album, one before that, okay, but this one's stronger. This is much stronger, much back to what the regular stuff is, rather than some of the other stuff we've been doing. Revolution Radio.
Survivor, of course, did Eye of the Tiger from 1983 smash hit Rocky
Yes, they
3.
did. Yes, they did. Alrighty, so police are investigating a shooting in Aurora that left one woman dead. Officers were called around 7 o'clock last night to the report of a shooting in the 10,700 block of East Exposition Avenue. A 911 caller said they overheard an argument followed by gunshots while she was on the phone with her sister. Police say they found a woman with a gunshot wound inside the residence. It died at the scene later. No arrests have been made, and the suspected shooter has not been identified. They're looking for him. Police in Wheat Ridge have recommended murder charges be filed against a 41-year-old man in the shooting death of a shop owner. This happened on November 29th. The shop owner was killed during a robbery around 11 o'clock in the morning.
Dang.
He owns a jewelry and antiques shop, West 38th Avenue and Teller Street. They believe the suspect had been in Jefferson County Jail since December 27th, and he was arrested for breaking into the shop on December 26th. According to the arrest affidavit in the break-in case, the DNA. So here's the thing. He broke into the place. So the issue is this. This is the interesting part about it. The guy's accused of killing the shop owner the end of November, then is in jail for a little bit for something else, gets out, and goes and breaks into the now closed shop because he knows the guy's dead. And that's where they get some matching DNA to tag him back to the original case. So the only reason that they really were able to connect the dots on him being the murderer is because dude went back to burglarize the shop that he knew the shop owner he killed wasn't going to be there.
I'm telling you,
I know.
Do not catch the smart ones. Just don't do it.
Like, dude. All right, 3 people were found dead. This is awful in 2 locations in Parker and Douglas County last week, and it looks like it is a double murder-suicide. Police are saying it is Brandon Timms, 38, that is probably the perpetrator. Unfortunately, when they found he dead off the trail near Reuter Hess Incline, he was next to an elementary school child that is probably his son. So
been to that trail countless times, man.
Yeah. So
they have an incline there. They have this great path you can run on. I'm trying to, as I read that story, I was thinking, what in the world is going on? Who could kill a kid?
Yeah.
I get it, man. You kill yourself. I mean, that's horrible. You kill your spouse. Also horrible.
Yeah.
But how can't you just leave your kid?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah. It's and what I think is it's unfortunately this, again, if you've gone to the idea of I need to kill this person, you've already jumped the shark. But I think that also inside of that twisted thought process is I am saving the child because I know that's how twisted it is. But again, we've gotten to the point of my solution is to end this person's life. So we've already gone into the twisted. And I think, and this is just a personal opinion, I think the twisted idea inside is I am preventing them from living up knowing that one of the parent killed the other parent and being alone and everything else, and they don't have to deal with the grief. I honestly think that in the twisted mind, I think that the person doing this thinks they're doing something better for the child and the only reason I say that, that's the only way that I could possibly wrap my mind around ever seeing someone make that horrible choice is they have to be
selfish.
Yeah, their head has to be that broken to come to that wrong conclusion. But that's the only way I can figure. I don't know though. Has to be that broken.
I mean, maybe if you're in a Sophie's Choice environment or something, but this is so selfish and evil. And that's the other thing. Someone's going to go, but mental illness. I'm going to be like, maybe. But how about just selfish evil?
Yes. And even suffering through that mental illness, again, selfish. You know, the idea that you're going to take somebody else with you and multiple. It's just,
Billy, somebody said it's called Saviors, not Survivor.
Oh, crap. You're right. Thank you so much. Why did I say Survivor? It was, I'm sorry. It was something else there. Yeah, the reference. I apologize. I've done that a number of times this morning with the wrong one, but it is Saviors. Thank you so much. I appreciate you keeping me on the straight and narrow because it's noisy inside my head. Rodeo communities rallying behind Austin Broderson, 19, seriously injured while competing at our National Western Stock Show earlier this week. He's part of the rodeo team at Casper College in Wyoming. He ended up under his horse. And it was run around the arena. So he's at Denver Health right now. And one of Denver's dilapidated motels has been sold. It is the Royal Palace Motel, 1565 North Colorado Boulevard, just over $7 million. They're hoping that it will turn into a 6-story apartment complex on the 1-acre site. The Royal Palace Motel, it dates back to 1969. And was basically a place that was there was a lot of crime and things like that, and was eventually closed down because there were a lot of unsolved murders and some other stuff there. So that's it. That's all I got, sir. Back to you.
Do you know the Royal Palace? I can't believe, Billy, that you've grown up without knowing the Royal Palace.
No, I know
the
Royal
lot
Palace.
of great music at the Royal Palace.
No, I know where the Royal Palace is. I've driven by there a number of times already, sir.
Of course you have. Listen, let's cut away for a break. Let's come back and do the fun stuff. The sponsorship is different, but equally amusing. Let's see if we can get through it all today. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, Little Dealer's Wheel on 710 KNUS. It's now time for the best part, the fun part of the show. It's the loser edition of You Choose the News.
Yes, sir. It is that time of the morning, but we are going to have a special edition of the music this morning, thanks to a personal request. Yes, this comes to us from a law enforcement officer wanting us to maybe incorporate a different President of the United States song. And he has a gun. So, yes, I'm going to play it.
It's
alrighty. That is how I did it. Alrighty, sir. This is the loser edition of You Choose the News. We have scoured the interwebs, blah, 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 stupid stories, dumb names. Here we go. Our return. Headline number 1, this is unconditional love. Headline number 2, it's a business, not a suggestion. Headline number 3, the triumph of a government solution. And headline number 4, concert goers say star crossed the borderline. Your choice, sir.
Border.
Yeah, concert goer says this star crossed the borderline. 2 New York City men are now not in the groove. They say that Madonna is no longer any fun. They are actually suing her because of her December 13th celebration tour that was supposed to begin at 8:30 p.m., but she didn't take the stage until well after 10:30 at night.
What?
They said, hey, we expected to be there. She said she was going to be there. She wasn't, and we got to get up early, and this is some crap. And so now they're suing her, saying you don't get to come on stage whenever you want if we have the tickets. Which, I don't know. I kind of like that idea.
Interesting. I imagine they're always late. I've never seen anybody hit the spot, on the few concerts I've been to, but that's outrageous. 2 hours? Like, just hang out.
That is dumb. Yeah. Just, I can't be there in time. No, that's just dumb. Alrighty. This is Unconditional Love, business, not a suggestion. Triumph of a government solution. Triumph of a government solution. This comes to us from New York City, and they are trying to keep people from getting onto the subway for free. They have a new set of subway gates that they are testing. These gates cost them $700,000, and they can be defeated as if you're a magician with a simple wave of your hand.
No.
Yes. Yeah. So these gates are tall enough. They're supposed to prevent people from jumping over. But individuals have figured out that if you lean forward and there's a little electronic eye, if you wave your hand in front of the eye, the gates just open. So it doesn't matter. So their $700,000 investment in these gates to keep people from jumping over the turnstiles and to get to the trains. If you just pretend to be a low rent wizard and go woo with your hand, the gates open. I know.
That's
Who would have
fantastic.
thought? Yeah,
that's the best kind of security.
And it shows you the amount of quality testing the government did before they approved the project. Nice job, guys. All right, final choice this morning. This is Unconditional Love, or it's a business, not a suggestion.
It's a business, not a suggestion.
It is a business, not a suggestion. We're going to Iowa for this one. A 54-year-old man is found in the parking lot of the gas station. And unfortunately, he is attracting unwanted attention because he has decided to have a little bit of private time in public. Yes, he has dropped trowel and decided to, do a little wanky. So he's there in the parking lot of the gas station and gets arrested. And promptly, the gas station says, "Sir, this is a business, not a suggestion. You need to remove yourself from the parking lot of this come and go." Yes, sir, that is it. So... And on that note, I am done. And it's a true story. So, yes.
Frankly, a fantastic story as well.
Yeah,
listen,
that.
we're gonna come back at 7:00. There's a lot going on nationally and locally. Our mayor is abroad in D.C. trying to figure out the way to solve some things. We're going to get your input on this too. What's going on here in Colorado and America? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Listen, and great job on the Thorpe Report, and you choose the news. We're in the news, and by we, I mean Colorado and specifically Denver in the news, as our mayor travels to Washington, D.C. to hook up with the Democrats only part of the delegation, including, I saw all these pictures on social media, Senator Bennett, Senator Hickenlooper, Brittany Pedersen. Didn't see her husband again. He remains hidden and basking in the glow of that $300,000+ contract to try to convince Jefferson County residents to further tax themselves. And then I think Jason Crow was in the picture as well. Why was our mayor in Washington, D.C.? It was to have hat in hand and to beg, I think, the Biden administration and clearly the legislature for money to take care of an invited problem. Billy has found some of the sound for that. Billy, do you have that clip of our mayor doing the "Here's Why I'm Here" thing? Oh, yeah, sorry. I should have warned you.
The migrant crisis and how we can bring mayors together to really push the Congress and the federal government to take action on what we need, which are federal resources to help migrants that are arriving to Denver, and critically expanding work authorization so that migrants that arrive in Denver can get jobs and support themselves, which is what they've asked most urgently to be able to do. So we are bringing together a host of mayors from across the country to push for that federal action we need to help solve this crisis for cities.
That's Mayor Mike Johnston. Hey, Billy, do we know when we have him scheduled to come back in? Interesting. I listened to this thing, and I know that there are other mayors out there kind of doing the same thing. And again, it's a bit offensive because no, not a bit. It's incredibly offensive given the fact that every mayoral candidate running to replace Mayor Hancock embraced the idea that we were going to remain a sanctuary city. I had the opportunity to be on the Colorado Politics recording earlier this week for Fox 31. It ends up playing on Sunday. And one of the questions that was asked, and they always have like a conservative Republican person and a not conservative Democrat person, and answer the questions. And what was striking to me was the difference in answers and the difference in approaches. I led off by saying, what if Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis had not started busing all of these immigrants, legal or otherwise, to these sanctuary cities? I mean, imagine that. To some extent, this is heroic, because until Denver got crushed with 36,000 migrants, and they didn't just walk up here from the border, that got bussed up here by Governor Abbott and others, would any of these people be out in D.C. saying, hey, we have a border crisis? Nope, not a single one of them. We'd be sitting back taking care of our couple hundred immigrants who break their way into the country and slip up here, demanding that they be given health insurance and high-paying jobs. Now we're overwhelmed. Those numbers, I mean, the 180-something million, what was it, 10 to 15% of Denver's budget? The only thing that has gotten the attention of these liberal mayors in going to D.C. and asking the president and Congress to do something were two Republican governors who said, enough. We're not going to be victims of this failed policy by ourselves. We're going to drag some people down with us. Like, you think you want to be a sanctuary city? Try this on for size. I think it's fantastic, because we do have a border crisis. Whether it comes to Denver or stays all down there in El Paso and the surrounding area is irrelevant. We have a border crisis. This just brings attention to it. It was brilliant. It was a brilliant move. And to hear Governor Pritzker from Illinois and Adams from Manhattan and even Mike Johnston and others wailing away at how this is going to cripple the city and our budget and all this other stuff, it's like, yes, welcome to Texas. So this border issue, in many ways, it is the most important issue facing a presidential candidate. I think it's going to be that way, because the economy, listen, I know people feel like the economy is horrible, and there are people that are still recovering from the COVID-imposed, pandemic-imposed crippling of certain sectors. That's true. But by most measures, our economy ain't that bad. It's not that you don't feel it individually. I'm not telling you that, even though gas has gone down, by the way, quite a bit. I know when I fill up at the pump now, I'm hovering somewhere in that $3 range. And you remember when it was up almost a buck more than that. It's not horrible. Not as good as when it was when Trump left office. I get that. But the taxes, the assessed property value taxes here in Colorado are going to crush people, punch them right in the wallet. I get that. But the economy itself, it's the perception that's driving us. The economy itself, by most measures, not horrible. So what is it that you look to say these are the drivers of crisis? These are the things that need to change. And the border, securing the border, is one of them. And guess when it was before? 8 years ago, when Donald Trump was running. If you'll remember, that was a huge issue that he addressed. It became, in many ways, his marquee issue as he ran around and said, I'm going to build a wall and I'm going to get Mexico to pay for it, and joked around about the big Ed McMahon check and all that other stuff. Neither of those things happened. Now, I know some of you are going to say he did build wall. He did replace bad wall. Yep, you're right. He did. He built 47 miles of new wall and replaced the failing wall on hundreds of miles. I get all that stuff, but he did not complete the wall. That was a pledge, and he did not get Mexico to pay for it. And please don't text in and say, in a roundabout way, he did, because there is no roundabout way. They either paid for it or they didn't, and they didn't. But here we are 8 years later, and the crisis is as bad, maybe worse than it has ever been. Hell, a year ago next month, 7/10, we were all down in El Paso. That was back when we had 3 local weekday hosts. It was me, Deb, and Stefan. And we went down there, and it sucked back then. So you have Donald Trump coming forward, and Billy, did you find the link, or was there sound? I can't remember, but he is quoted in some of the stuff that I saw talking super strong about what he wants to do with deportations and stuff like that. Did you?
I haven't found any audio. I've only seen things printed. And again, the odd thing is this is the same callback to what he was talking about during the previous run. He was saying a lot of these same things. He had promised in the 2015 run that he was going to deport all of them. That was part of his promise during that time. I'll see if I can find I don't think there's any audio. I haven't seen any yet, but I'll keep looking.
He has also, even this time around, talked incredibly strongly about deporting everyone. Now, this is all taking place. You've got Mayor Johnston in Denver, now moved on to Washington, D.C. for purposes of asking for more of our tax money to be redirected down here. We see that. But at the same time, the Republicans in the Senate are working with the Dems in a way to try to come up with some type of immigration compromise. And that immigration compromise is tied to Ukrainian funding, some Israeli funding for all the stuff going on overseas there. And it sounds like the Senate is close. But then the president weighs in. Even Newt Gingrich has weighed in to tell the House, don't do it. Do not do it. Don't compromise. You should do everything. You should get everything we want to secure this border, or you should vote no on this. I don't think that's going to happen in the Senate. I think John Thune, who's the number 2 to Mitch McConnell, has said just not helpful. We need the funding for Israel. We need the funding for Ukraine. We're just not in a position to just simply walk away from the table because it's no longer just about immigration. And so they're trying to come up with a way to fix all these things at once, or at least make them temporarily fixable. And so you have this situation now where we have 36,000 in 1 year, 36,000 in 1 year in Denver. If President Trump is reelected, and I think the guy's going to be nominated, and I think the guy's going to get reelected, and I think immigration policy is going to change, and I think it is for the better if what it means is when you come to seek asylum, you're going to wait outside the border till we figure this out. And if you're going to have to wait outside the border to figure this out, I just think all the better for us. But here's the big question I want to ask of you. Here's the big question. What do we do with the 36,000 that are here? What do we do with them? right? Like, let's say we're able to shut down the border, and that has to be the focus for all the people that are out there saying we should be able to figure out a way to create a path for legal citizenship. That's a different part of the book. That's the epilogue to the book, How Do We Control Immigration? That's not the prologue. The entire book should be about how do we control our borders and prevent anybody else from coming here that we don't want here. That's just how it works. So shelve that conversation. Those two things cannot be handcuffed together. But I do think it's a legitimate question to ask while we figure out how to do this. What do we do with those that are here? And I think about that a lot because especially the ones that are here legally. And I think a lot of people conflate, well, they're the people from south of the border. They're all illegal immigrants. They're not all illegal immigrants. Because of Biden's very permissive, if you came from Venezuela or these other hand-picked countries, you're able to come across here as refugees, as asylum seekers. Because of that little blessing, some of them are here legally, whether we like it or not. I don't like it. I don't like it if they're going to come here and have to wait 4 or 5 years in order to get a hearing on whether they should be here. And you remember from John Fabricatori, when we talked about the border stuff, he had said like a huge percentage of those people that go seeking asylum go to court, and the court says, yeah, you don't qualify. But we've let you live here for 5 years and make babies and all that other stuff. But from a Christian standpoint, from a humanitarian standpoint, and that's the answer that the Democrat lady gave on the Fox 31 Colorado Politics show I did. Her response was, first and foremost, we have to treat them humanely. That wasn't my first reaction. It isn't even now. But I do wonder, what is the answer? What do you do with the 36,000? That's just for Denver. What do you do with the 36,000? 303-696-1971. What is the answer? If you're a person who goes to church or reads the Bible or adheres to any version of Christianity or some other faith that asks you to help the downtrodden or those in need and all that other stuff, what do you do with them? Well, what do we do? Are we gathering them up and shipping them back south? Call me and let's talk about that. Do we owe them something? Having had this failed policy from the Biden administration, do we here owe them something? Is it their fault? And I thought about this while I was doing this interview with this lady on Fox 31 was, do we blame them? They came to the border. That's all on them. But we invited them in once they got there. We told them it was okay for them to be here. The illegals, I feel completely differently. If you broke into the country, we should be able to round you up and ship you out. There are people that have waited in line for years to get in here who have just as righteous a cause of being here as the people that self-select to break our laws and come in here. I really have very little sympathy. Please don't tell me they're escaping the economic. I don't care. That would be the same thing as saying, hey, I walked out of Walmart with a grocery cart full of food because my kids are in need. You're still a thief. We'll talk about sentencing, but you're still a thief. Hang on, folks. Point of personal privilege here. Hey, boys, I love you. I'll see you guys tonight. Do great things today in school. Eat your lunch. Sorry about that. That's one of the obligations of doing the show from home as the kids get ready to take off for school. Also, watching my son leave in shorts, a long sleeve shirt, shorts, and a hat in this weather. And I feel like a bad parent, but I'm telling you, it doesn't matter what I say. If I tell this kid, hey, it's cold out there, he's like, yeah, but I'm only walking from the car to the school. And I'm like, what if the car doesn't make it? What if the car breaks down? What if there's a fire alarm? What if it's like talking to an inanimate object? They look back at you like, that's not going to happen. I'm like, well, I guess when you're 14, that's how the world looks. But having said that, for those who are poorly dressed, what do we owe these people? Morally, not legally. There is a legal thing we owe them once we invite them in and we give them legal status. That's true. But morally, do we owe them anything, and what is it? 303-696-1971 is our phone number. Getting some texts in as well. Let me take a look at this right here. Oh, we do have callers. Billy, if you texted me, man, forgive me. I'm not rocking the two things as well as I should be right now. Who do we have? Let's get Brian from Arvada, our friend. You're on 710 KNUS. Brian, how are you?
Hey, George. Good morning. You know what? I got a 13-year-old son, and he left the house yesterday with shorts on, and I just shook my head, and I said, "Are you going to be cold?" And he just shook his head like I was crazy. And like you said, he just said I had to walk just from the car to school. And
yeah.
it's
such a short-term thinking, isn't it? Like, I'm only going 10 feet.
It doesn't even matter
feet.
what
like,
you say either. Yeah,
nope,
and you could be as common sense as possible, and they look at you like you're crazy. So I'm still a dad and still say the things I say, but I know I'm going to get the response I'm going to get.
There's going to be the thing that we should feel good about, Brian, is there's going to be a day where they will be us, and they'll be looking at their kids thinking the same thing, and they'll be like, "What's gotten into these kids?" It's like, no, it's part of being a teenage boy. You are just smarter than the elements.
And Brian and Brian and George, that's the point in which when you have the grandkids, then you dress those grandkids inappropriately and send them home. Same, just following what you did. That's it. I mean, I've told them, and just to share, guys, I've told my kids their very first place that they get alone, the very first time they have their own apartment, condo, house, whatever it is, I am going to come over. And previously, I will have ingested maybe 1.5 gallons of water. I'm going to walk into their bathroom. I will lift up the toilet seat. I will drop trowel, close my eyes, and then whatever happens, happens because I've cleaned up enough.
Try to do a hula hoop.
Yes,
you know
exactly. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my own weirdness, but I had to share
That's
that.
great,
Brian. I know you didn't call in to talk about whizzing on your kid's floor, but what do you think about all this immigration stuff?
Well, George, it's a mess, and we all know it. Now these sanctuary cities are complaining that we can't handle this. Well, you're a sanctuary city, so I guess you got to handle it. And it's systematically set up, George. I mean, no incompetent. Mayorkas, it's a big plot and a plan to let people in. What they want to do with these people, I don't know. Is it to get votes? I don't know. Is it to crash the system?
Well, no,
I don't know.
I mean, that's interesting because I do think there's some deliberation here for sure. But what's the end goal? If it's not to make them voters, what's the end goal?
I think it's to just divide the country. I think it's to bring people in that don't care. The Democrats don't care about this country, most of them. They want to fundamentally change this country. One way to do it is break down the family. Another way is to break down the church and religious institutions. The other way is to break down society where nobody assimilates. We're all just different people. And votes. I think it's all about votes. I really do. No one's this incompetent. I mean, and to say one thing, George, like under Trump, he did try. He did try. Mexico was never going to pay for it. I know he said some crazy things, but he did try. And illegal border crossings were down tremendously. I just got statistics. It was it was lower than Obama, but Biden's like tripled it and almost quadrupled it at this point. Illegal border crossings. So just that. I'm
glad you brought up the stats
George.
thing because I didn't remember this, Brian. You might, but Billy did before we got on the air and said, "Hey, man, you should really check out the number of deportations under Obama versus Trump."
And the numbers were
like,
the numbers are huge.
Yeah.
Obama did way more. Almost. And again, I thought it was much higher. But I went back and I looked in problems with graphs. But basically, Obama did roughly twice, if not a little bit more.
Well, this is just in one Wall Street Journal article. Yeah. It says, and they were trying to compare similar times in administrations. It said under Obama, removals hit a record of 409,000 in 2012. In 2018, under DJT, it was only 256,000. So big difference. But if
I was listening to one of Obama's speeches.
Yeah, go ahead.
The State of the Union during his first term, and he addressed immigration, and what he sounded like a Republican. He sounded like what we want to do even better. He was talking about if you're a criminal, you're going back. We're going to have work release. You got to come the right way. Listen to one of his State of the Union speeches. I listened to it last night. I don't know which one it was. It was in his first term, and Obama sounding. I'm sitting there going, where's the left gone? This guy was actually talking better than Trump even. And I don't even like Obama. I think he's the worst president ever. And that's why this all has to be on issues, George. It all has to be and about issues. It's got to be like Trump said, build the wall last time. We got to control crime and illegal immigration. The 36,000 that are here, George, you know what they're doing? Go to a Walmart parking lot like I do, and they'll approach you and ask you for work. Go to any major intersection. I was on Mississippi.
By the way, Brian, you're right. That happened to me last week. I was in Denver and dudes running as soon as the light turned red. I think it was either to get on or off the highway. I can't remember. Dudes running out from the side with their squeegees.
Oh, and they're everywhere.
Looking for money to clean off their windshield.
Yeah, they're all the way from Mississippi and Federal. I got all the way to Colfax and Wadsworth. All these major intersections, exact same thing. I'm like, this is where the immigrants are, because the rec centers are full, the shelters are full, trying to convert schools. I mean, come on. What are we doing? That's an issue, George, we can easily win on.
I'm of a mind. I always thought it was a top 3 issue, but for me right now, it feels like it's number 1 just because it has gotten so exponentially worse, and it appears there is no will to end it in sight, which means 36,000 in 1 year in Denver, 36,000. We can't wait another 1 to 2, 3 years to figure this thing out. That's just Denver. This to me has become maybe the number 1 issue for anyone seeking the presidency. I think Trump has picked up on that, but the rhetoric has got to be backed up this time with some action. And again, I have no doubt, Brian, that he's going to reinstitute that stay outside till we let you inside policy for asylum seekers, which I fully endorse. But the other stuff matters to me too.
Well, buses coming here, George, for me means buses going back. I'm sorry. It's a broken system. Blame the Democrats. But when we start deporting people, then they'll start blaming the Democrats. Now that they're accepting everyone, oh, the Democrat's my friend, and I'm Hispanic, George, and I'm Christian, and I'm Native American. And my mom is the one 8 years ago that said, I'm voting for Trump because I'm sick of this immigration. My mom's a third generation.
Brian, this is a good place to pivot. I'm glad you brought this up. What would you or mom or anyone else in your position, what do we do with those who are here? And I don't mean the illegals. I'm less concerned about that for purposes of this conversation. What do we do with the ones that Biden and Mayorkas have blessed off on because they come from Venezuela or some other hand-picked country?
Well, I will revert back to what Obama said in his first term. He's like, if you've been here more than 5 years, you're not going to be deported. And we're going to find a way to get you, have you stay. But all bets were off for everybody under that number. And that was Obama speaking like 7 years ago, or actually longer than that. 2000, it would have been his first term. So it would have been 10 years ago. So that's what we should be doing, George, is sending them back. I have a heart, but my family is more important. And the citizens of this country are more important than people I don't know that got misinformed and came here without a plan or without a hope, hoping the Democrats were going to take care of them for the rest of their lives. I'm sorry, you got misled, but you got to go back. You got to go back. And like I said, I'm a Christian, and I feel bad for them, but I feel worse for this country and my family and my community than I do for these people. I'm sorry, but the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, George. I mean, I'll quote Spock. I'm sorry, it's common sense. It's common sense.
Well, there's also the one sacrificing for the many at the end of Dickens' Tale of Two Cities. It's a far better thing that I do than I have ever done. It's a far better rest that I go to than I've ever known. But I don't even think we're asking them to do that. I think what we're asking them to do is, hey, can pretty please for a moment, don't expect anything from a place you broke into. Like, don't have expectations. And the problem is, Brian, you're right. And thanks for the phone call, man. We're up against it. Have a great weekend, Brian. That we invited them in. And now what? What do we do? And Brian had said, look, it's this old policy of if you've been here 5 years. These people haven't been here 5 months, some of them. What do we do with them? You invite them. They travel by foot, by bus, by I don't know what, for thousands of miles from Venezuela up here. We let them in. They feel like they're in the land of milk and honey. Now what? Do we say, hey, new president, new tune, you guys got to go back? 303-696-1971. Aaron, Tony, I promise I'm going to get to you. I just got to cut away for a quick break here. And in order to do that, I got to tell you about Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic. I've told you this now every day for, weeks. And that is, in 2024, it's time to stop wondering, are you just going to be able to will that energy back into your body? You're just going to be able to turn off enough lights and not look at your phone, and all the sleep's going to come pouring back. It may be something beyond that kind of control. It may not be a function of will. It may be a function of ability. That's not your fault. That's just nature. It just happens. And if you're going to try to fix that, why not go to the experts at Rocky Mountain Men's Clinic, who have done for so many others, for hundreds, thousands of others. Let them do for you what they've done for them. Go to the website, RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com, do the 10-question true-false quiz. Takes only 2 minutes, and it will tell you whether or not you may be eligible for this. Pick up the phone and call them at 720-440-7900, 720-440-7900. If the low testosterone thing is keeping you from living your best life, there's a fix. You can either avoid it, pretend it doesn't exist, or just choose not to do it. But put yourself in a position to know more and maybe do more. $99 initial medical consult with their experts, but it gets rolled into the cost of the treatment if you sign up for it. Go to RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com, RockyMountainMen'sClinic.com. When we come back, we're going to get back to our callers, Aaron, Tony, whoever took over for Brian's line at 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Immigration in the news every single day, on our minds, on mine in particular, maybe the number one issue facing America at the moment. Our mayor in Denver, out in D.C., hat in hand, asking for money to help pay for the failed policy decisions, both of Denver to declare itself a sanctuary city and of the Biden administration by allowing so many folks in through our southern border, both legally and illegally. It's changing America. We're now at crisis levels in terms of our ability to even fund basic government operations because of the tax that has been imposed upon us by this failed policy. Talk about what to do about it. I'd love to get your thoughts at 303-696-1971. If it's busy, I'll let you know when a line becomes open. But more than that, and we have to get to this part of the conversation, is what do we do with those who are here? What do we do with the ones, especially the ones that are here legally? Even if you and I would not have blessed off on them being under the asylum thing, somebody with authority did, and now they're here. What now? Let's go right to the phone lines. Aaron, you're on 710 KNUS. Aaron, what do you think?
Dave, I don't know about the ones here legally. I mean, that's debatable. But the thing is, obviously, the ones here illegally have to be sent back. This country's broke. We can't afford it. The city of Denver is broke. Mike Johnston, the newly elected mayor, is promoting backdoor amnesty. That doesn't cut it. Former President Ronald Reagan tried to do the right thing when it came to amnesty. He got screwed. It's no surprise he got screwed by the diabolical dumb donkey party. But he got screwed by his own party, the rhinos within the Republican Party, screwed Ronald Reagan. So history always finds a way to repeat itself. Amnesty didn't work then. It's not going to work now. So, you know, for the newly elected mayor of Denver, Colorado, to go to Washington and think he's going to get some money from a broke federal government that is $33 trillion in debt, it's ridiculous. Even if the federal government was $3 trillion in debt, I mean, it'd be a blessing if the federal government was $3 trillion in debt. I could live with that. Maybe he would go and get some money, and it would put some of that taxpayer money in his hat, and he can come back here in Denver with it. But this country is $33 trillion in debt. The state of Colorado.
Well, you're right about that. And I don't want it to sound like that's because of immigration. It's because of a whole bunch of other policy decisions. But you're right. Our ability to be flexible here with these failed policy decisions, pretty hampered by our other choices.
Oh, no question about it. And it's so frustrating because the thing is, though, when Trump was in there for 4 years, and of course, here we go again. Trump was doing the right thing. But it's no surprise he got resistance from the dumb donkey party, you know. But he got resistance from within his own party, and that was frustrating to see that 4 years trying to build a wall, you know, saying that Mexico was going to pay for it. Yeah, that all sound crazy. It did, but it didn't matter. When you come into that office, you got to do some crazy stuff because what was going on wasn't working, you know. So George, who's benefiting from this illegal immigration? What do you think, George? Who's benefited from it, George?
Well, couple different groups, and you know what, Jim, our libertarian friend, would call in and tell you that corporate America loves them some cheap labor, and that's why this is what's beneficial to them. I think for the Democrats, I honestly believe this is their attempt long term to shift the political and demographic dynamics such that they remain perpetuously in power. And I don't mean that as a conspiracy. I don't think it's a conspiracy. I think it's just an agreed upon policy. And I think that they can couch it in terms of we're being humane and we're living up to the ideals espoused on the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty, you know, give us your tired, huddled masses, all this other stuff. I think they can wrap it up in that. But at the end of the day, they want to change the dynamic of America. They want a people that will be more dependent upon them and government and reward them with their votes and keep them in power long term. And while I don't agree with those who say these people hate America and want to destroy America, I really honestly believe They don't like the America that exists today. They weren't fond of the one before, but they love the country enough to want to change it into something that they think is right. And I'm aghast at how they see America. I mean, how they want America to be is just contrary to. Nobody came over from Europe, by the way, to settle this country with these ideals in mind, with the idea that the government was going to take care of them. It was the opposite. It was just, please get off my neck.
Yeah.
And so here we are at a place where we're just inviting people in to become dependent upon. I don't know, Aaron. It's bugging the hell out of me.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, though, these illegal aliens leaving these dirtbag banana Republican, the leadership in these countries are unethical, no morals, no values, and yet they're invading this country that supposedly is systematically racist. That it has no ethics and no morals and no values. Well, obviously, this country does have morals. This country does have ethics. It does have morals and values. And as a result, this country is being invaded. And the thing is, though, when it's all said and done, history has a way of repeating itself. They will be deported back to the country where they were born on planet Earth. And hopefully, when it's all said and done, we can start cleaning up America. Charity begins at home. American citizens come first. American citizens come first. But anyway, George, I could go on and on and on. You have a good morning.
Aaron, thanks for the call and have a great weekend. Aaron's line is open at 303-696-1971. Tony, you're on 710 KNUS. Tony, what do you think?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
It's interesting conversation. It's two issues for me. First of all, we've got now the Senate, Republicans, Democrats trying to come to an agreement on a policy, and really pressed probably because they all recognize the urgency of making sure that Ukraine remains funded. So, I mean, everybody's motivated to get something done. And you may recall back in about 2012, the Gang of Eight, right? The Gang of Eight, the leadership. Yeah. They put together a unanimously approved immigration policy. But at that time, the Tea Party jumped up and down.
What do you mean by unanimous?
All eight. Four Republicans,
okay.
4 Democrats wrote a policy and wanted to take it then to the whole body. Right. And the Tea Party had jumped up and down and said, no, we cannot cooperate with Democrats. We can't do that. And that died. I mean, even Republican writers of it then walked away from the deal because it was too politically explosive. Well, here we are right now. You've got Democrats and Republicans in the Senate saying we need to get this done, and they're all going to bend, and they're all going to probably do things they don't really like, but they want to get this done. And what do we have? We have Trump, for one, standing on the outside saying don't do a deal. Don't do a deal. Don't do a deal unless you get 100% of what you want. Which basically, if they follow that, then nothing's going to get done again. And that would be disappointing. So I've got my fingers crossed on that issue, that whatever package they put together, let's sign off on that, and let's have Republicans and Democrats both saying this is the best plan we've got for now.
I don't think it's going to make it through the House. I just don't think it's going to make it through the House. And there's another sticking point that they're trying to work through on the Senate side. You may have read this, Tony, and that was this idea of this parole, and I'm using air quotes on camera here. There's a parole authority discretion that the president has to grant, kind of like on an emergency basis, entry into the country from, for any country under extreme circumstances. And we've used it for folks from Afghanistan, folks from Cuba, all those kinds of things, like Mariana boat lift stuff. The Republicans are wary of allowing this president with this DHS secretary the unfettered authority to make those decisions. So right now, the push and pull between the Biden administration and the Republicans in the Senate is, hang on, we want to limit your ability to exercise that discretion, because our worry is you're just going to invent some crisis like in Venezuela and say, and now everyone from Venezuela can come here. We don't want you to do that. Had you heard that?
So if the Senate Democrats and Republicans can somehow get together, even if he loses that privilege as a part of the negotiation, then so be it. Then take that package and try and get both parties in the House to sign off on it. That would be the best thing that could happen for us. I mean, let's not dismiss.
Do you know what the package does? Do you know what the Senate package does?
I don't know at this stage. I don't know what all the elements are, and I'm sure that whatever Biden may want, Republicans that they hate, he's going to have to compromise, and both parties are in the mood to compromise to get this deal done. So I'm going to trust that it's going to come out as something I might not even like, but so be it. If that's progress, and right now we need some progress, and having both parties put a bill forward would be an awfully good thing because we haven't had that. We had one, got close in 2012 and then it died. So, well, now the urgency is there. Let's get something done. So that's just, that's just an issue. I hope that they get this deal done. And I haven't followed every component and what each side wants. I'm sure that they're going to push back and forth, and there's going to be give and take, and whatever it is only going to be a half measure, but it's better than nothing. And that's kind of the way democracy works. And I'm hoping they get there. Now, on the issue of deporting, I heard your previous caller, and I know Trump is talking about deporting. We're going to deport the illegals, and I had occasion in 2012 I started down this path of writing a screenplay about an authoritarian leader that emerged that said we're going to deport everybody, all the illegals, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is I spent a lot of time thinking about this. And so at that time we had 12 million. Well, I thought, okay, if you put 60 people on a bus and send them over the border and drop them off, you would have to run a bus gather them up. This would be something on the magnitude of Hitler moving around Europe to concentration camps. But he did it with about 6 million people. We'd be talking about 12 million people, a far vaster distance, and the numbers are just staggering. So if you put 60 people on a bus, let them take one suitcase and take them across, drop them on the other side of the border, you'd have to run a bus every 10 minutes, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 4 years. You would ultimately create.
Well, we could do more than one bus at a time, and we could do trains.
I've said every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes. Every 10 minutes, 24 hours a day for 4 years. At the end of the first month, you'd have a refugee camp of 150,000 people. By after 6 months, you'd have 1 million people.
I think the
if
logistics
they did all disperse.
Yeah, Tony, I think the logistics matter. There's no doubt about that. And thanks for the phone call, Tony. Got to cut away for a break, but I'm not sure that should palsy us from doing it. The fact that we've made the situation so bad and so hard to undo means we don't undo it. I don't know, but you've got the quote unquote dreamers, and some will call them dreamers, some will call them anchor babies. Kind of doesn't matter. You're talking about kids who are by definition, by legal definition, by constitutional definition, citizens of America. Do you separate their parents from them? I mean, what do we do with the 36,000 that are here? What do we do with the ones that are here legally as we continue to talk about enforcing our border laws? Bob, we're going to get to you and the other callers at 303-696-1971. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Yeah, I've done it. I've gotten us all the way to the end of the show and not enough time. But here's the deal. I promise you, Bob and Dean and everyone else calling in to fill in those lines at 710 KNUS, that's 303-696-1971. We're going to get to you. We're going to keep this topic going. It's just too important. I just don't want to put someone on air and then cut them off before we can have a full conversation. I want to hear your thoughts on this. I do. Listen, I'm slow, but I'll get there. I'm convinced this is deliberate and not in that conspiratorial way, not like everyone's got together, not in that way. But I do think this is a deliberate policy shift by those who see these people coming across the border as folks that will become dependent upon the government and as an extension, the Democrats, and will help them to remain in power. I think that's got to be part of this analysis. I also think that this may be the crisis issue of the moment that we can't afford to screw up anymore. And I think as long as Biden and Mayorkas are unwilling to address it, Donald Trump is going to win this thing, maybe by a decent number just on that issue. What do we do about those who are here? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. halfway through the Friday show, folks. We're almost there. We're almost at the weekend. I'll have you until 10 o'clock, and then Chuck Kirk gets you for a couple hours. Dennis Prager a couple after that. Seb Gorka till 4. Then Brandon Tatum from 4 to 7. And then Billy and I will be back together on Monday from 6 to 10 a.m. Billy, of course, next week, popping smoke and leaving Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe the following Monday. It hurts my tummy to think about it. The show just different, just harder without Billy and his extra special radio superpowers. James, G, and Kelly will have to try to pick up the slack. None of them like to get as drunk as Billy gets before the show, so it's going to be a challenge to get them in. Here's what we're talking about. The mayor of Denver, his name's Mike Johnston, had tried to focus on the homelessness issue and get 1,000 people off the streets by December 31st. By some measure, apparently he has done that, even though it's an interesting measure. But all of it was complicated by the fact that over the last year, 36,000 immigrants, I don't know if that's legal and illegal, have poured into Denver, in large part due to the busing from governors like Abbott and DeSantis up and around the countries. All of these Democrat-dominated sanctuary cities are now waking up to see just a taste of what El Paso gets. I don't know how you see a taste, and I really now regret that thing, but getting just a taste of what El Paso has been getting for countless years. And now it's turned into this crisis. 10 to 15% of Denver's operating budget is going to be sucked up trying to deal with the 36,000 migrants. And it doesn't matter to me whether they're transient and they're going to move on to other places. That's less concerning to me because some of them are going to be coming from other cities to come here. So in some way, we're going to increase our population by a bunch of people. Mike Johnston trying to figure out how to deal with this. We don't have the money for it. Goes to Washington, D.C. yesterday with the Democrat-only delegation, the 2 senators, Hickenlooper and Bennett, 2 of our Congress people. I didn't see DeGette in the picture, but Brittany Pedersen and Jason Crow. And all of it was there to ask for more federal assistance in doing this and to ask for the federal government. And you'll hear this in the clip. Listen to what Mike Johnston wants to propose to allow these migrants to have access to jobs here in America. Billy, do you have that sound?
Yeah, I mean, we know the president has pushed a federal supplemental budget that would provide more resources for security at the border and also for more officers to help adjudicate asylum claims. We don't have folks who are in Denver waiting 6 years for a trial date and not able to work in the interim. This would help get 30 or 60-day decisions, get those done immediately, get folks work authorization if they meet asylum criteria, and then get them to work in Denver. And so we know those dollars are there. We have Senate support. We think we know we have the president's support. We need the House to come forward on that. That's our big push. And also we're working with other cities as partners to be able to figure out how we can try to create a coordinated entry system so that there are migrants that can arrive in cities or states that have the capacity, not just randomly in cities where the governor of Texas ends up sending folks at this moment.
Yeah, little dig at Governor Abbott with that randomly sending them. I mean, suck it. That's all I can say is if you're the governor of a state that is a border state and you're the one dealing with the failed federal policies that are enhanced by the invitation extended not just by Biden and Mayorkas, but also by these sanctuary city loving Democrats, it seems to me you've invited it, you should have it and not complain about it. But now that they're feeling it, the one part that wasn't in that clip, that's not Billy's fault because I didn't tell him to get it, was the part where he's now asking to give them authorization to work. And he says, so that they can help pay to sustain themselves instead of being a drag on Denver's operating budget. I guess the question is a couple fold. There's a couple pieces of this question. One, I'm firmly convinced this may be the seminal issue of this next election for president of the United States, because even though we're dealing with a whole bunch of other problems, honestly, guns isn't number one. It's got to be this. Fentanyl is a killer, but it's tied to this, right? The fentanyl isn't growing here in America. We're not making it here in America. We talked with Dave Oleski, the acting special agent in charge of the DEA out here for the Rocky Mountain region. And he says, yeah, it's coming from down south. So this border thing, it's kind of everything. So One of the questions I have is that what we want to see with the 36,000 that have come here? Let's pretend for a moment the vast majority, if not all of those ones, are here legally. And that is to say that somewhere along the line, they claim to be from Venezuela. Of course, no one's going to have any real proof of that. No way to really check it. And we just stamp their little CFB1 or whatever that's called. And we tell them, and you heard the mayor say this, we shouldn't be waiting years to adjudicate these asylum claims. They come here 4, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. Now, one thing Johnston said that I'm a big fan of is the idea of maybe we hire, at least temporarily, a bunch more immigration judges to adjudicate these things. I'm not sure I want the Biden administration deciding who to proceed on and how to proceed on them. I think I'd probably want someone a little more aggressive on the immigration front, and that's most likely the Trump administration that's coming up. But what do we do with the ones that are here right now legally? And I ask that question from the standpoint of morality. Christianity, it could be Judaism, it could be Islam. I don't know what Islam talks about when it comes to fellow man, but what do we do with them? Do we just say, yeah, I'm sorry? And someone texted and said, we didn't invite them here. Biden did. Well, that is the we, right? Like we act in concert because of the government. It's not that you and I agreed with it, but they're here. Now, what do we do with them? What do we do with the families? And I'm asking this from a moral standpoint. What do we do with the families who come here and, yes, on purpose, I'm going to even admit on purpose, have a baby here, and that baby now has citizenship in the United States? What do we can't deport the citizen? What do we do with the families? What do we do with families where they drug two kids across the border and made another couple here? What do we do with them? 303-696-1971. Bob, you're on 710 KNUS. Bob, what do you think?
Well, good morning, Colonel Brauchler.
Good morning.
And thank you for this opportunity. So we got three names here. Was Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, and Donald Trump. What's that trifecta about?
I really don't know.
Y'all ran
Rich?
the table in 2017. You had the House, the Senate, and the Oval Office. This all got fixed, remember? All those promises.
Oh, I don't remember it being fixed.
The-
I don't remember it being fixed.
Wait a minute. Yeah, it did, because that's 2020. Everything is fixed, because that was the 115th Congress. We got the Speaker, we got the Majority Leader, and we got the Oval Office, the Commander in Chief. All of these promises, it's the exact same song. That warm, wet feeling running down your back, y'all conservatives, don't worry about it. It's just raining. So,
well, what's the answer? Did you support those guys, or were you supporting someone else? Did you support Trump back in 2016?
No, I didn't believe any of it. That Mexico is going to pay for it? No, we pay Mexico. They're not going to pay for squat. And anybody that believes that, well, like Donald Trump said, we love the poorly educated.
What do we do about it?
Running out of gas,
Bob,
here.
what do we do about this?
Well, what we do is we've got the best Congress that money can buy. And the Republican Party platform has been remarkably reliably successful. Your gas prices, your deregulation, your lower taxes, and all that stuff. By the way, all those promises, there was a whole list of them. We're going to fix health care. We're going to fix the wall, and taxes. What did we get done in 2017 with Paul Ryan? We got a tax cut, the Tax and Jobs Act. For all of you guys, get somebody to read it to you. Right?
And Bob,
we just
I get
woke
that.
up this morning, and it's all Joe Biden's fault.
No. I don't think it's all Joe Biden's fault, and let's focus on the immigration piece. I'm not looking to relitigate the 2016 election and what happened afterwards. I'm saying here we are right now. It's undeniable that under Joe Biden, we've had this explosion in over-the-border movement of people, both legally and illegal. That's just happened.
Agreed.
So what do we do now? What's the answer?
Well, we would tell the senator from Texas to ramp it up, because screaming at the top of your lungs that the borders are wide open for the last 3 years, the message is getting through. It's been remarkably successful. Build it, and they will come.
What do we do? I sense the sarcasm, Bob, but what are, practically speaking, we make you president for the day, for the week, however long you need. How do you fix this?
Well, it starts at the top. You've got the best Congress and the best Supreme Court that money can buy. What the hell are we complaining about?
No, Bob, I'm asking you for a solution. You're singing the same tune you sang when we first started talking. I've let you have that piece. Bring us back to a solution, not the sarcastic digs at the Republicans. Get us to a solution, Bob. What is your solution?
Well, let's see. We're spending $100,000 for each of the graduates for English as a second language, and now we're going to ship them back to wherever they came from. That's got to be the fix.
No,
Along with
man,
the parents and the
I
grandparents.
appreciate the sarcasm and the digs, but what is your legitimate fix? I feel like you could probably do this shtick for another 20 minutes. I'm saying in the 30 seconds you have left, give us a solution, not sarcasm. Give us a fix.
I would admit right up front that I haven't heard the fix. I don't have original thoughts on this, but I do understand that everything I've been sold so far, like Lucy and the football gets yanked, Charlie Brown lands on his head, and it's all Biden's fault. And I appreciate your show because you're one of the few shows that's even worth listening to that I have an opportunity to call in and whine and complain. But the story I'm hearing on national news stuff, there are no. They've defunded that HB2. I hear that that defunded the immigration and the border patrol. They say, oh, well, we passed something way back. No, they took money away, and that's all Biden's fault. There's something the Senate is working on now, and MAGA Mike is not hearing any of it. No, we're not going to pass it. He was actually on standby saying, well, we're not going to pass it because it's all Biden's fault, and if we pass something, then that would be good for Biden. We can't do that.
Well, there's
I
something
think the
to
answer
that
is there.
in terms
you
of
just got to pull the money out of it.
Yeah,
These guys are bought and paid for.
Bob, thanks for the phone call and the nice words. Bob's line is open at 303-696-1971. I think that's a different piece of this conversation, and that is, even if we had the fix, would we permit it to happen under Biden during a presidential election year? I think that Trump in many ways is motivated to just stymie Washington, D.C. from addressing this in any way so it remains a viable, and it is a viable political issue as he runs against Joe Biden. I believe that. I think if they came up with a solution that Trump wrote down on paper and said, this is what I will do as president, and he gave it to the leadership of the Senate and the House, and they all agreed to do it, he would come out against it because he does not want to lose this as a topic, as an issue for the campaign. I believe that part, Bob. The rest of it, though, is tough, man. I get the sarcasm and the digs and all that stuff, but got to have an answer here. And whether you agree or disagree, build the wall is an answer. It's an incomplete answer, but it's an answer. Shut down the border so that nobody comes across without our permission is an answer. Keep the asylum seekers outside of America till their case is adjudicated is an answer. But the rest of it isn't. 303-696-1971. Dean, you're on 710. What do you think, Dean?
Hi, thanks. Hey, I wanted to try to get a little in depth with you, but unfortunately I have to jump out of my truck now. So I just basically want to make a quick statement and I'll listen to your response on podcast. This has been a problem for decades. And my question is, why are we upset now? And who exactly should we be upset with? I want to say that this has been an American problem all of this time. American companies give them jobs. Americans let them buy homes and rent apartments. American banks give them bank accounts. Our American government gives their children birthright citizenship, education, social and financial services, allows them to file taxes and get refunds. They get huge refunds if they have a bunch of children. Our government gives them driver's license. Then we have the problem with the American liberal who says things like no human being is illegal and the white man sold the land anyway. So my question is, who should we be upset with?
Dean, real quick, How are the illegals filing taxes?
George, I was married to one, unfortunately, big mistake in my life a long time ago, and they file taxes. They file taxes and they
How
get
do they do
refunds.
that, though?
Look it up
I mean, how could she
yourself.
have a social security number? How does she get a
They
social
have
security
an
number as an illegal?
ITN number. You should know that, George.
I don't. Listen, I'm not a tax guy.
An individual tax ITN,
but
I think it's individual. Illegal aliens file taxes every year and get refunds.
How are they able to even demonstrate that they've earned income?
I'm sorry, George. I have to jump out of the truck. Look that one up for yourself. It's called an ITN form that they do their taxes with.
I get. Hey, thanks,
address
Dean. I
some of the
appreciate
other
it.
stuff that I brought up to you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Listen, I think there's some interesting points that you brought up about how long lasting this problem has been. I just think it's come to a head right now. And I really think that this issue would not even be a national issue that could change the election outcome, but for Greg Abbott. I mean, Donald Trump maybe should have Greg Abbott be his running mate, because this guy has elevated this issue beyond just a mere annoyance and a talking point and people having to travel to El Paso to look at how porous the border is. Now they don't. Now you can just walk around Denver. You can walk around Denver and see exactly what it's like to be a border state, because we've got 36,000 new immigrants this year. Now, I imagine they're not all standing there on the street, but you get the point of it. 303-696-1971. I don't know who you blame, but I do want to know what your fix is. And what do we do with the ones who are here legally? What do we do with those who are here right now? What do we do with the quote unquote dreamers or the anchor babies? Call them whatever the hell you want. I don't care. What do we do with them? Not just legally, but from a moral standpoint. What do you do with them? 303-696-1971. Don, you're on 710 KNUS. Don, what do you think?
Hey, good morning.
Hey,
well,
sir.
I've always said this was by design, and before I get more into that, one great change I like at KNUS is you ditching the creepy eye news for your own news, by the way. But yeah, there's just really not much you can do about. I mean, you have to take care of the ones that have crossed and had families. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, but we can try to stop the bleeding, with the wall and all of that stuff. That's the best you can do. And sadly, thanks to COVID and, the way Trump listened to the wrong people, Biden got into office and continued their program of illegals with the hopes that they'll be loyal to the Democratic Party and give them permanent power. And that's always been the game.
What do you think about the request by Mayor Johnston to the folks back in D.C. that, hey, you need to permit these people the opportunity to legally work so that we can lessen the burden on the city in terms of providing these taxpayer-funded, support things and all that? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a great. They should be able to work and kind of lean the government burden if you're going to be here. But there still needs to be an immersion program, to train them to be citizens, or at least their children, so that they're not seduced by government bureaucrats and powers that be that would exploit them for their own gain of power. I mean, the whole situation has been made difficult because of this scheme by so many Marxists, and the open borders is definitely one of them. So,
Don, I appreciate the call, man.
They're making it more difficult. They're making it more difficult than we would like it to be. I mean, there are no easy solutions. You can't make.
Well, no, there aren't, and I appreciate you saying that. But
there can be a way to stop the bleeding, though.
Yeah, but I appreciate what you're saying, though, about, listen, if they're here, we got to do something, right? Like, you can't just keep them on the streets. You can't just drive a truck around town and grab up the ones who you've stamped as okay to be here and then go take them back over the border. I appreciate that thought, because that really makes it very difficult. It's a conflict, Because on the one hand, we're like, we've got to stop this. It's overwhelming the country. But what do you do with the ones that are here? What do you do with them?
Exactly. And I mean, it is overwhelming the country by design. You hear Rush Limbaugh talk about the permanent underclass. Well, others are regurgitating it, but different ways. And, the more you have a dependent class, the more it gives government power. And that's what the Democratic Party, they hate the latter, is what they want. And I would agree with Mark Levin that it's all about the party, because through the party, it's how you get the power.
Yeah, I get it. Don, hey, man, thank you for the phone call. It's always great to hear from you from down south. Don's line is open at 303-696-1971. Going to cut away for a quick break. We're going to continue this conversation. There just aren't any easy answers. I see people texting in here, and we'll get to some of the texts. But I want to know what your answer is with what do we do with the ones that are here? And is this the number one issue? The number one issue in the debate about who should be the next president? I mean, is this one of those ones where you can look past the character flaws, the other failures of personality? Can you look past those things because one of these two guys, and sadly, I've written off DeSantis and Haley. Barring something else, I don't see how it works out. Do you look past all those things because this guy, or you think this guy's going to show up and do something? Now, there's reasons why his numbers were almost half in terms of deportations of what Obama's were, and we'll talk about that when we come back. But I want to keep these phone lines going. I love the conversation. 303-696-1971 is the number. Brent and Joyce Tolliver, they're small business people. That's what we love here. It's not that we wouldn't be excited to have like a Walmart or a Target. It's not like that. But that's just a big chain. If you're looking for the kind of customer service, the kind of care and quality and craftsmanship you only get from a locally born, bred, raised, grown business from people that are from here and are going to live here, it's Brent and Joyce Tolliver. That's the son. That's the mom. They've got roll them out shelves. They'll come to your house like they came to mine. They'll do the little laser voodoo thing, getting around, crawling around, trying to figure out how to turn all those big empty cabinet spaces, or maybe they're jammed full of things you just can't get to but once a year. They'll make them usable. They'll put a smile on your face. When folks walk into your house, they're not going to look around your cabinets and see the change, but the smile on your face will be the change, because your kitchen, your bathroom, your laundry room, maybe it's a finished basement or something in the garage, they can put these roll-them-out shelves anywhere there's a cabinet. Check them out at 303-475-9601, 303-475-9601, or go to rollemoutshelves.com. That's rollemoutshelves.com. When we come back, me, what do we do about those that are here? It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Phone lines, they've lit up as well as the texts. Here's a couple of them. No, Don, no, we cannot let the government, quote, train them to be citizens. The government will use that to abuse the country as they already have. Remove the incentives and they will leave. Force the kids from illegals back under the immigration status of their parents. I don't know how you can force them to do that. If we are saying right now that they have a constitutional, not statutory, but constitutional right to be declared citizens, I don't think you can force them under the immigration of their parents. I just don't think you can do that. Why don't we let illegals work and tax them at a higher rate? I mean, that's a thought for sure. It's a thought. I just don't know that we want to make them legal. I do not want to grant citizenship to a single person who has broken into the country ever. Never, unless they go back through the process the way everybody else did. We have so many ways to get into this country legally and so many people that follow the rules. We simply cannot, as a matter of justice, grant some sort of amnesty and citizenship to those whose first act in our country was breaking into it. Can't do it. 303-696-1971 is the number. Jim, you're on 710. What do you think?
Hey, I agree with you. And I got to tell you, this is the finest nation on this planet. And I believe in the future it will be as well. But this is a reckoning. It's finally here. They dealt with it in the 1980s by doubling Social Security and putting off the retirement age for Americans till the age of 67. And now they're talking about 70. And these are the business-minded people that are talking about penalizing the American people and making them retire later, work longer, and increasing their expenses. And this is the exact reason why Donald Trump and all of his Union American supporters are going to use this tactic to try and counteract the abortion tactic that the Democrats are using. And they very well may put to rest the Republican Party as we know it, because the Republican Party, if you remember, Ross Perot was debating that NAFTA, which was not a liberal thought process. NAFTA was a business subsidy back in the 80s when it was thought up, and it was debated with Ross Perot, and that brought us Clinton in the 90s. And I got to tell you, the irony of what's going on here finally is so rich, because there is no other state in the nation beyond Texas that benefited more from the illegal aliens and the NAFTA zone that moved factories and workers into that area than Texas. Texas loved NAFTA for 40 years.
Two questions, man, and I invoked your name actually in an earlier part of the show, talking about the cheap labor. I did, but I said if Jim were to call in, he'd say all of this was about corporate lust for cheap labor and all that other stuff. But I do want to ask you two things. One, what is the fix now? Like, what do we do, one, to get this thing under control? But two, and this is the morality one, what do you do with those who are here? And I don't mean the illegals. I mean, what do you do with the ones that Mayorkas and Biden have stamped their CFB or CFP1 forms and said, oh, you claim to be from Venezuela? Yes, you can seek us out. What do we do with them?
This is the American business climate, and we can just forget about morality. It's all about profits, George. You got to understand one thing. In this nation of immigrants, over our entire history, there's only been one period of time where we were able to sustain our population through births. And that was right after World War II. And those people, those baby boomers, already 50% of them have left the workforce. They were retiring or leaving the workforce. They can't retire because they didn't save any damn money, but at $10,000 a day. And now that's dropped off to, I don't know, 9,700 a day. 300 million people in this nation, a third of them are going to leave the workforce. And one of these days, there's going to be 10,000 people dying a day. And if we think that we're going to get ourselves out of this situation through birth,
are you saying we need this
then?
We need this?
The business community this is what they've been fighting for decades on end. I don't even call them illegal aliens. I call them business subsidies. Easily a third of the businesses around you in this city will shut down if they don't have access to the cheapest labor we can find. Are you telling me we're actually going to deport the cheapest labor that's available to us? Are you telling me that's on the table?
I think it's on the table by virtue of where we think we're at with this crisis. But Jim, then what's the answer? If you don't think we can logistically, practically, economically do it, what does Jim do?
If you think we're going to let a third of the population of this nation die off or get deported, that is, as you would say, crack smoke crazy.
What are we doing? Jim, help us get to the promised land, man. What are we doing?
Okay, here's what I know. Some people deserve the government's money. Other people do not deserve the government's money, and that I know is true. We don't have to debate that. Donald Trump right now, not the Republicans, Donald Trump has got phenomenal union worker support. Can you believe that that the Republican Party has all these union people voting for them, but it's not the Republican Party. It's the MAGA Party, and that is it. You don't want people voting. That's the history of the Republican Party. That's why Texas is not blue yet. It's because so few people in Texas historically vote.
Do you want to convert all these people here to voters? I mean,
no. Okay, this is where I get stupid, okay? But I think American women should be in the home, and they should be penalized when going to work. I sure did. I mean, this is the only. How do you make American women have babies 25 years ago? You have to do something drastic. How do you make American women have babies now? You have to do something
How did we
drastic.
make them do it 25 years ago?
We fundamentally changed the circulation of money from the real working economy that was somewhat productive to the financial economy. And now people think that they've got to sue someone to make it in America, or they've got to gamble on Wall Street. Beyond that, they can't afford a family. Everybody's lying to themselves about
I see what when you're saying
here.
What you were trying to say is we encouraged women to have kids through a different economic model, not make them like we didn't pay women to have kids.
No. No. Well, that's what they're doing in Japan and the UK, in different countries in the UK or the Europe. They're actually physically, and they're doing it in Russia. Putin did it in '98. He says, "Hey, we got to pay women through tax credits to have babies because we have all these problems here." We have a country where people are coming across the borders to feed cheap labor to our businesses. And if we think we're having a real discussion here about stopping that, we are crack smoke crazy. It's not going to happen, George. No matter what Donald Trump and all his union worker supporters think, it's not going to happen. You know who's really getting a good kick out of this right now? Not just you and me. It's the Native Americans. Those guys have got to be belly laughing at this funny stuff.
Jim, it's always better to hear you say crack smoke crazy. It just sounds funnier when I hear it from someone else.
And have
Jim,
a good
thanks
week.
for the call, man. Yeah, have a great weekend, man. We'll talk with you soon. Jim's line is open 303-696-1971. Gary's up next, but we're going to get to a couple texts here. It says, what I would do, 1, deport everyone as a lesson and warning. Do you mean start over from scratch like we're all deported? Or just, I think you probably mean deport all of the illegals. I get that, but do you deport the ones that we've given permission to be here legally? Number 2, cut all social programs for illegals. There is something about the idea that just simply walking across the border, we've now let them feel entitled to put demands on us for things. But what do you do with the ones that are here that we grant permission to come here? Do we just say feast or famine, man? Good luck. You're on your own. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Como se dice bootstraps, by the way. No more anchor babies. Change the law that children born here by legal residents of America would count. That might be a constitutional amendment. Honestly, I got to look more into that. Cut federal funding for all sanctuary states or cities. Do you remember we tried to do that here in Colorado with a law enforcement fund from the feds that said, hey, if you're going to refuse to cooperate with federal agencies, the federal government will refuse to give you these funds. And while that makes complete sense to me, Phil Weiser went to court and convinced the court to say, no, you have to give us the money anyway. You can't tie it to our cooperation with the feds. That law needs to change. That seems silly. Another one, build the wall, up manpower on border, run tunnel detection vehicles. I'm fine with a wall as long as we don't look at it as a panacea, as just one of a bunch of tools. Freeze all asylum seekers for 6 years. Make legal immigration easier and less expensive. There's a lot to that one. Number 7 is a good one. 8, anyone that crosses into the U.S., fingerprint, photo, and you said document, you left out DNA. DNA these people. And we heard stories from John Fabricatore where people were coming across the border with babies who would then be smuggled back out of the country and come in with other immigrants claiming to be their babies. We need to DNA test the people that are coming across the border as well and document them like in Iraq and Afghanistan. That makes sense to me. Hey, Gary, you're on 710 K-News. Gary, what do you think?
Oh, hi. Hi, George.
Hey.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
You know, I think you're right about this is a perfect solution for Trump to get elected. I think, you know, in prior presidential elections, they've always talked about it's the economy stupid. But I think this is vaulted up to the top of the list. And if Trump is smart, he will basically lay out exactly what he'll do and answer your question about what do we do with those that are already here. One of the promises that Trump broke during his first run was he broke his promise to deport all immigrants illegally. And that was a broken promise. So
certainly an unfulfilled one for sure. Certainly an unfulfilled one. And that's what I worry about now is it's going to be more of these platitudes. Nobody punches Trump harder on his failures to live up to his promises than Ann Coulter. I don't know if you've seen Ann on social media, but she crushes DJT all the time on the fact that he ended up not doing anything that he said regarding completing the wall, getting Mexico to pay for it and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I was watching a Trump rally yesterday, and, you know, Chris Christie made a point of pointing out he only built 50 miles of the wall, 50. And Trump is still talking about
47, but yeah.
Yeah, Trump is still talking about how he was so successful in building the wall. He didn't build the wall. So I'm concerned. I think he's going to use it as a tactic, and some uninformed voters will vote for him. But then he's going to turn around and not do anything. And that's unfortunate. But I think it's a game changer. I don't think it's about the economy. What it's about, and that's even, we're realizing that locally, it's about services that we're paying for and not getting. Like this morning, I was driving down the highway. I hit this horrible rut in the road, and I hit it, and I thought, this is what we need to do with all that money we're wasting on these immigrants is fix the frickin' potholes.
I agree with you. Gary, thanks for the phone call and have a great weekend. We'll talk to you very soon. Gary's line is open at 303-696-1971. I'm going to get to the other calls. Lots of texts coming in I want to share with you as well. Keep the conversation going, but not until I tell you about DJ C, not T. That guy's name is Dan Kaplis. He and Babar Wahid have that awesome law firm out there that solves problems for those who've had problems made for them by individuals, businesses, trucking companies. When you've been involved in something, and it doesn't have to be a motor vehicle related accident, where you've been hurt, your life has been changed for the worse. I'm not talking about they gave you a bionic arm, which arguably pretty cool, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you have pain when you walk. You cannot do this because you can't raise your shoulder. You're not able to play with your kids or your grandkids or sit for long periods of time. You shouldn't have to suffer that for the rest of your life without some measure of justice, some measure of compensation. Now, if all you care about is the quick check, hell, the other insurance company will take care of you lickety split, but they're going to hose you. They're not in the business of taking care of you, no matter how sweet and nice that adjuster is that calls you. They don't give a crap about you. They give a crap about the money because that's what the company cares about. You want someone who cares about you and will make them free up the dollars that will change your life, even if it's just marginally, but towards the better, because you've got this pain, you've got this issue, this loss. You want Caplis. You want DanCaplisLaw.com, C-A-P-L-I-S, DanCaplisLaw.com. You can call him. You can call Bobber. You can call any of the fantastic attorneys. I've heard Dan talk about some of their trial outcomes. It makes me wish I had stayed with Dan sometimes. I used to work for Dan probably, can't believe I'm saying this, 18 years ago. I mean, that's just crazy. But you can give him a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551. That's DanCaplisLaw.com. When we come back, your calls, your text, George Brauchler, 710. KNUS.
Want to take your favorite radio station wherever you go? Well, now there's an app for that. No matter where you are, stream your favorite shows. Tap the app to listen to podcasts. Talk back to your favorite local hosts.
At the tone, leave a message.
Call the show. Set your alarm. Enter contests and win prizes. All in the palm of your hand. Available now for iOS and Android devices in the App Store or Google Play. And best of all, it's free. Download today.
George Brauchler back with you here at 710 KNUS. Let's try to get Ralph. Ralph, you're on 710, and then Lynn and everybody else calling in. We'll keep this going a little bit after the 9 o'clock hour, but call back then. Don't hang on. Call back then. Give yourself a little bit of a break and then join us. Ralph, what do you think about all this?
Bottom line, quickie, work permits for everyone, no citizenship, but make them pay taxes like the rest of us. Jim was absolutely spot on when he said that the reason that Trump and Ryan and McConnell did not close off illegal immigration when the Republicans were in power was because it was cheap labor for U.S. business. Now, the problem is, if you have cheap labor eliminated, prices go up. You were talking the other day about the high cost that we are paying for these people who are not allowed to work, but we have to take care of. The flip side of that is that there would probably be an increase, at least that much money, in the cost of consumer goods. Reason being, if the illegals are stopped, then who's going to provide the underwage labor for U.S. business? Who's going to do the farm work? Who's going to do the meat packing? Who's going to do the fruit picking and the packing for the orange groves? The answer is you're going to have to start paying Americans a real wage as opposed to the immigrants a less than legal wage.
Well, so is that the answer? We're just going to bless them all into the workforce?
Well, your problem is we can't send them back.
Why not?
I mean, well, how are you going to round them up? Number two, they have kids here, as you point out, who are citizens. So you're going to take the mom and the pop away from their kids?
That part's a troubling one for me, what you do with them. But the part that's not troubling for me is the idea that, hey, are we just going to drive around and scoop them all? I don't know the answer, but I do like the idea of, at least for the illegals, creating an environment where it is more attractive to move on than to stay here. And I don't think that we're doing that. Hey, Ralph, I got to let you go, man. We are just about out of time. How much time did you say, Billy? 9, 8, 7. Stick around. Tamra Ryan, CSI, men ain't working. Here's why. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. It's the final hour of the week, the final hour of the George Show here, right here at 710 KNUS. We'll get back to that other topic here after this, but I saw a study that was done by the fantastic Common Sense Institute, and by way of full disclosure, of course, I'm currently a criminal justice fellow along with Mitch Morrissey for the Common Sense Institute. So I get on their list and they send out these things, and lo and behold, there's a report that comes out. And it's a question that Billy asks every time we see each other in the radio station, and it's entitled, "Where Are All the Men?" Only this one is really about their participation in the economy. I thought it was fascinating enough that we reached out to the Coors Economic Mobility Fellow, all those words. Yep, Coors Economic Mobility Fellow for the Common Sense Institute, Tamra Ryan. Tamra, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here.
Hey, before we get into this really interesting study that you guys did, tell everybody a little bit about your background. First off, did you grow up here in Colorado?
Yes, I'm a fifth generation Coloradan.
Where was high school?
Yeah, and so I went to Widefield High School in Colorado Springs, and then I went to University of Colorado in Boulder undergrad.
Go Buffs.
And then, like many people who grew up here, you don't realize how amazing it is until you leave. So I left to go to graduate school in New York, and then I had a stint in Chicago and eventually made my way back to Colorado.
Now, you've written a book, at least one book that I see here, The Third Law.
Yes, my first book was about my experiences at Women's Bean Project. For the past 20 years, I have been the CEO of Women's Bean Project, which is an employment social enterprise that creates food products and employs women experiencing chronic unemployment. And I wanted to talk about the things that I saw firsthand with the women as they work to change their lives. My second book, which is I'm working on right now, is my second book is called Followship: How to Be a Leader Worth Following, and that should be out next year.
When you started to tackle this particular topic, did you know already it was an issue, this thing about male participation, or did you discover this while trying to research some other aspect of the economy?
I spent a lot of time looking at research about labor force participation in general. And I was doing my third report for 2023 was about women in the workforce and how women have the highest labor force participation rate ever. And it was juxtaposed against that men's labor force participation rate is dropping. And so I thought it would be a really interesting thing after talking about women to really talk about the challenges that men are facing and this trend of prime working age men leaving the workforce.
Well, talk to us about the numbers, how you got them, and then what does it all mean? Let's just start there. What are the numbers that I wasn't aware of this until I started reading this study, and I thought, what the hell is going on? Tell us what the numbers say.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think sometimes the numbers percentage-wise seem small, but today across the U.S., 7 million prime working age men, which is 25 to 54 is how it's defined, have left the labor force, and they are referred to as NILF, N-I-L-F, not in labor force. And that means that they are not working, nor are they looking for work. So then we thought we need to look at Colorado. So we looked more directly at Colorado, and interestingly, Colorado has fared better than the rest of the country on average. However, if you go back to 2007, so pre-financial crisis, and you look at the rate of men leaving the workforce in Colorado, it's actually a higher percentage than across the U.S. So we have historically performed better than the rest of the country, but we're doing worse, or we're accelerating faster than the rest of the country. So today, since 2007, over 23,000 men have left the labor force.
What?
So when you start to look at this, percentages are small, but numbers are big.
Well, Tamra, what's going on here? Are they incarcerated? Are they joining the military, the circus? I mean, what are they doing?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, this doesn't count men who are in the military. So these are men who are non-military workers who, again, are 25 to 54. And there are two primary indicators. I would say one is education level. So men with only a high school diploma or less are much more likely to leave the labor force. And also, interestingly, men who are not married and or men who don't have kids are much more likely to leave the labor force. So often what happens is that there are, nationally, there have been time studies done to look at how men 25 to 54 who are out of the labor force, how they spend their time. And interestingly, and probably unfortunately, what they're doing is spending most of their time on social things, including things like gaming online or online. So, one of the reasons I wanted to write this paper is because I think we should all be worried about this.
Just so that I'm clear, because my kids game, but they're all in college and great performing high school students, and they still spend more time than I think is really appropriate on gaming. Are these folks that have just disengaged from the economy to the point where that's all they do is they get up, they grab a little bit of cereal, and then they sit down and play games all day? I mean, is that the dominant theme of their lives?
Yes. And in fact, these time use studies show that it is equivalent to basically a full-time job, about 2,000 hours a year. And a full-time job is 2,080 hours a year. And again, that's what I think is so surprising, because the first thing you ask is, well, what are they doing instead? And that is the answer. And then the second question I ask is, how are they supporting themselves?
Yeah.
How are they bringing income into the household? Yeah. And so the interesting thing about that is there is either someone in their household who's supporting them, or they are on Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI. And so the interesting thing about SSDI is that it was originally developed for men who were aging and, were close to leaving, say retiring, and really had some sort of physical ailment that didn't allow them to be in the workforce. Well, the standards to qualify for SSDI haven't changed in the last 40 years, even though our medical technology has. And so you can qualify for SSDI in instances in which you actually could receive medical care, or you could get better, and you could actually potentially in some instances work, even a portion of the time. But when you're trying to qualify for SSDI, you're not allowed to work. So SSDI, and then also someone in the household, or they are receiving food stamps. And so that's a big part of how these men who have left the workforce are supporting themselves.
So we're subsidizing, you and I and everyone else listening, through tax dollars. We're subsidizing lethargy.
Well, that's certainly one way to look at it. I think
I guess I was hoping you would echo that, but you sound a little too smart to take the bait.
Well, what I would say is that the solution is to look at why men are leaving the labor force to begin with. And one of the factors is that if you look at real wages for men, they really have not grown at the same rate as for women, and particularly if you look at men who just have a high school education, their wages have not dropped or have not grown over the last 50, 60 years. And so I think that's one factor to look at. Well, it is because the jobs that for people without post-secondary education have really declined. And when you look at what's happening in Colorado, and the reason again for this report is to say, okay, Colorado's overall performing better than the rest of the country, but there are some indicators that would tell us that we need to be cautious, because first of all, it's anticipated by 2031 that 73% of the jobs in our state will require an education beyond high school. That doesn't mean a 4-year degree. Yes, and it's expected that we'll be second in the country, and we're number 48 in terms of the number of the number of jobs that will only require a high school diploma.
Oh my goodness.
So to me, that's a reason for us to be paying attention, because we know that while historically we've been one of the best educated states in the country. That's really because we bring well-educated people in because of our in-migration. We also know that our in-migration into Colorado has dropped, and it's expected to continue to drop until 2050. So we need to make sure that our homegrown, is the expression, our homegrown men are getting the education that they need to be able to move into the labor force of the future.
We're talking with Tamra Ryan, a fellow out there at the Common Sense Institute. It had the word Coors, economic mobility. There's probably one I'm leaving out there, talking to us about this study called Where Are All the Men? You also have some prescriptions, or at least some proposed solutions for this. Can we talk about those? I think I have an idea of some without even looking at the study, just based on what you've said, but can you talk us through what's going to make a difference here?
Well, I think the first is we were on our way to some of those things. Last year, Colorado took over from the federal government our apprenticeship programs. And so currently there were over 500 apprenticeship programs that are offered in Colorado, and that is expected to grow. So starting to help high school graduates move toward apprenticeships, and potentially not toward four-year degrees. I think that the narrative that everyone has to have a four-year degree is not accurate. And then also there's a lot of work being done with the Workforce Development Council and community colleges to push people toward high-demand careers. And so really pushing certificate programs and apprenticeships. And the great thing about an apprenticeship is you start earning money right away. So you're not getting into debt while you're getting educated. And I think that's a really important thing. And then I really think that, so the Global Commission for Men and Boys did a study about Colorado and pointed out that deaths of despair for men in Colorado are a serious issue. And they recommended that Colorado create a commission on men and boys to help address some of the mental health challenges that men and boys are having in our state. That recommendation has not been pursued at this point, and I really think that it could go a long way toward helping men and boys in our state. And again, I don't want to say that this would be to the exclusion of work that we're doing to help lift up women, but I worry that the work that we've done to lift up women has been to the detriment of men, not intentionally, but has led to that.
You also pointed out something else that hits a little close to home, because I've been a career law guy in the criminal justice sector. What are the things that can be done to help men that come from that? First off, and the numbers on the incarcerated population.
Oh, that's just crazy. 27% of formerly incarcerated people are unemployed, which is a rate that's higher than we even saw during the Great Depression. Wow. I think a lot of people don't realize that. And we're at a point where as much as a third of U.S. working age adults have some form of criminal background. And we really need to look at second chance hiring, meaning employers hiring people with backgrounds, as a means to fill our jobs and as a way to keep people from being chronically unemployed. There is plenty of research, and I'm going to do a report in 2024 about this. There's plenty of research to show that formerly incarcerated people who are given an opportunity to be employed are actually more loyal. They're great employees. And so I think that it's an untapped audience that we have historically sort of minimized and really need to address.
I think too that the stigma that rightfully attaches to some convicted felons for some of the worst offenses you and I can think of bleeds over into all convicted felons. So it doesn't really matter what your felony was. When someone runs your background check, they see you're a convicted felon, and it makes them uncomfortable or feel like in a competition between you and the person that hasn't been to court in prison, maybe they're the better bet. What's the answer? How do you get employers to take that chance?
Well, I think it is some of what you're saying, which is differentiating between different types of charges. And it's also recognizing that I have seen women who are not given housing, who are not hired because they have charges on their record, not even necessarily convictions. And so I think some of it is educating the employer population. And there is a movement across large employers to do second chance hiring. And so I think it really comes down to having those leaders help us educate other employers around hiring and helping people understand that there's a difference between someone who goes to prison because of, say, possession or sometimes possession with intent to distribute, and someone who committed a much more heinous crime. And all that said, though, I think that our system is intended to provide the punishment. And once someone is released from prison, the punishment is supposed to be over, but we continue as a society to punish people for, what I often say is, how would you like for the rest of your life to be punished for the worst day of your life?
Well, and it's informal, but you're right. It's real. It's practical. What, in addition to that, you talked before about how many of these gamers are sitting around on SSDI, or maybe they or someone else in the family are subsidizing their existence through SNAP and other stuff. What kinds of reforms could be made that would change that?
Well, I think one of the things that could change that is having work incentives as a part of that to allow people to work to the extent that they can. So if someone has a legitimate disability and is not able to work full time, then you're able to provide an opportunity for them to work as much as they're able and also potentially receive subsidy. The way the SSDI system is built, it doesn't allow for someone to work. And so that would be one thing. Another thing is that what has proven to work to incentivize people to be employed is earned income tax credit. And so there are federal earned income tax credits and there are state earned income tax credits, and continuing to incentivize employment through EITC is a really great way to get people to work. And then the final thing is during the pandemic, the work requirements for SNAP, which is food stamps, went away. Yeah. Those are going to be reinstituted.
Well, that's helpful.
And so what we want to do is we want to incentivize people to work. And there are often things about our system that don't do that.
Are there other things you can think of? I saw the SSDI, I saw the SNAP stuff. How many of these, support net kind of mechanisms do we have that no longer carry a work requirement with them?
Well, again, they were suspended during the pandemic, and a lot of the conversation in Washington right now is about reinstituting them, and I believe that will happen. The interesting challenge is that what we're dealing with at a state level are decisions that are made at a federal level in terms of thresholds for wages and income and things like that. And so one of the things that I've been working on is joining a working group of organizations and institutes across the country to go to Washington and try to affect the benefits cliffs, the thresholds for which one would qualify, in a way that would incentivize work, so that as your income increases, your benefits just aren't all of a sudden cut off, they're tapered. And right now, most benefits don't taper, they actually cliff. So it's things like that it's a much longer road, because it's a manifestation at a state level for things that are happening, decisions that are made at a federal level. Another recommendation I made, and a bill was introduced in December,
nice.
It is to look at doing our benefits and our workforce development in the same way that the state of Utah does, which is through one point of access. So as an individual who needs support, you go to one person in the state, and the people in the state determine what benefits you need or how they can help. And I do think that that could be a way to really cohesively create incentives to work.
That's fascinating to me. The other thing that when you were talking about the earned income tax credit that I thought was really interesting was, in light of the fact, and there's another reason for this too, but in light of the fact that married men's labor force participation rates are just higher than those who are individual dudes probably sitting around and gaming, allowing them to be judged for EITC purposes on just their individual income would actually help bring families together or keep families together under that change.
Yeah, well, it certainly would incentivize marriage. It would be, one thing that would incentivize marriage. We have this interesting challenge, I think, in our country right now is that as women have moved into the labor force and they're earning income, they have less need for marriage than they did in the past because they can support themselves. And then when a woman who perhaps has a college education and is supporting herself, she's looking for a man who is at a similar level to her. And when you have today, for every 100 college degrees that are awarded women, only 74 are awarded to men. So we're creating all
Say
of
that
these.
part again. What's the number?
So for every 100 college degrees that women receive, 74 are awarded to men.
Jeez.
So women are getting college degrees at a much higher rate than men are also. And so there are all these different factors that are really tying into the decrease in marriage rate, and the decrease in marriage rate then potentially decreases the likelihood that a man is working. And, it's a really, all of my reports I find, and I'm sure you do too, each issue we're looking at is very complicated. And, one of the things I know for sure is whenever you have a problem, it's never singular. It's always multiple things that are interwoven and complicated and need to be addressed really holistically.
This is fascinating stuff here. And this is, how many reports have you guys generated out there at the Economic Smarty Smart part of CSI?
This is my fourth report.
Dang.
So we're working on our topics for 2024 right now. I'm excited to, it's been super interesting, and I've had the opportunity to say, hey, I think this is a thing. And then we do the research and we show that it really is a thing.
Well, Tamra Ryan, thank you so much. This is fascinating stuff. I hope that the legislature and the Congress, frankly, take you up on some of these suggestions. The other ones, I don't know that you need to have legislative action, like just convincing employers to give folks a chance seems much more of an education piece. But I like that too, that not everything is, hey, we need a government fix to this issue, although the government certainly could fix the problems that it's exacerbated. Thank you for coming on to talk to us about this.
Thank you, George. I really appreciate it.
Hey, that was Tamra Ryan. She's the Coors Economic Mobility Fellow at the Common Sense Institute. You can find her report and all of the others at Common Sense Institute CO. Got to put that CO in there because it's colorado.org. And I'll mention the reason for that is because this thing is blowing up. This CSI thing has caught fire. They're now in Oregon, Iowa. I keep begging them to go to Hawaii just so that I can try to weasel my way into a trip someone else pays for to help pave the way for whatever they're doing out there. But not yet. But this common sense thing has taken off, and its birthplace was right here in Colorado. It continues to do huge work. I'm honored to be a part of it. And I think Tamra Ryan's just another example. They go out there and find these people who are just experts in their field and then cut them loose to try to figure out ways to make the system better. And it's not partisan, which I really like about it too. Hey, listen, stick around. We're going to get to some more of the emails, some more of the texts, and some more of your calls at 303-696-1971. I'm happy to talk to you about if you're noticing this as well. And the most fascinating thing was these dudes that are dropping out of the labor force, two things. One, they're just playing damn video games all day. And you and I are paying for them to play video games all day. Before we cut away, I want to tell you about Mitch Floria. There's a guy that is not playing video games. I'm not even sure he knows what a video game is because the guy is so hardworking out there at the Art of Granite that he has grown this business as an immigrant, and a legal immigrant. And given what we talked about in the last couple hours, that's an important distinction to make. Guy came over from communist-controlled Romania because they don't share a border with the United States, and started a family, started a business, and has just been working himself crazy along with his fantastic crew of long-term employees to provide you the best opportunity at upgrading the countertops in your house. Bathroom, kitchen, laundry room, finished basement. I mean, I suppose you could have cabinetry that also has countertops associated with it in the garage as well. If there's a countertop in your house, it can be made better with Mitch Floria and the Art of Granite. You can go check them out at theartofgranite.com, but don't be misled. When you get there, you'll be shocked to see that it's the art of granite. It's the art of marble. It's the art of quartz. It's the art of fill in the blank, anything you can make a countertop out of. Here's kind of one of the cool things about Mitch, in addition to the craftsmanship and the business stuff, is that he's a guy that rewards 710 listeners. So you get the wholesale prices just for using Mitch. That's huge. But if you say, Psst, I listen to George, I listen to the 710 KNUS folks, then he's going to throw in the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing one room, he'll throw the sink in for free. Call him on his phone, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919, or check him out at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. When we come back, your calls, your text, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Let's get right to the phone lines. Lynn, you're on 710. Thanks for your patience and hanging on, Lynn.
Thank you. Hi, George.
Hi.
I have, I guess, a solution to the problem with the migrants, immigrants, homeless. During the Depression, they put a program together that built the Hoover Dam. And my feeling is if you come into this country, you give 2 to 3 years of service to the country, whether it's in the military or in a government program, to repair the roads, possibly to build a railway network across the country. It would take the truckers off the road. It would get our produce and all of our goods much faster from one coast to the other coast, and everything. But it could be done. The people would earn money. They'd have to learn the
Lynn,
language.
are you talking about those we let in through this refugee asylum process, or just anybody who manages to find a way through the southern border?
Anybody who finds a way to come through the
So
southern
even
border.
illegals, we would employ the illegals.
Right, because we can't kick them out. They find a way to come back. If they come through this country, whatever they are, they, instead of putting them in housing and doing whatever and giving them money, we make them work for it. Just like during the Depression, there were so many people out of work that the government came up with a program to put men out of work to work.
That's
and they
interesting.
earn money.
A couple concerns that I would have, and I like the idea here that, hey, we're going to try to get something out of these people. One, I don't want to create a vehicle or a pathway to citizenship for anyone who breaks into the country, even if they decided that they would do some labor, because honestly, there'd be a ton of dudes who would pour across that border and say, hey, I'm happy if in 3 years of working on the railroad, I get to be an American citizen with everything that flows from that, I'm in. The only other one that concerns me
now anyways. That's happening now.
Well, except they're not citizens.
Capture.
They're not
No,
citizens.
they're not. But this would be a pathway to citizenship.
I'm saying I
If they
don't want to
gave
create a
service-
pathway to citizenship for illegals. I don't care what they do. I don't care what money they bring. If you broke the law to become part of the land out here, to be part of it, we don't want you to be a citizen. It's not fair. I'm afraid to create
So
the
how
other
are we
ones, though.
getting
If you're
them
talking
out?
about asylum seekers, I feel differently. Go ahead.
How do we get the illegals out?
I think I don't think there's one answer. I don't know that you can just send a truck around town and grab up all these people, but I don't think you throw up your hands and say there's nothing we can do because it's logistically challenging. I think we have to acknowledge that we're going to increase the cost of labor here in the United States by crushing employers who hire illegal aliens. Under the table, fake social security numbers, doesn't matter. If you're an employer and you're counting on cheap labor, we're going to crush you. Now, that's going to increase labor costs, but okay, I'd be willing to tolerate that if it meant putting pressure on the system to figure this immigration thing out.
Okay, I don't have a problem with what you're saying. And if you want to limit it to migrants and whatever, I still think that constricting them into the armed services or into a government program
Lynn,
where
would
they're
you put
doing
illegals
something-
in the military?
No, I'm saying even if it's not illegals, I'm saying if it's migrants or, whatever, if they're in this country, that they serve the country, they learn the language, and they cannot, that's the pathway to citizenship.
Well, Lynn,
there
I
has
really
to be
appreciate
a pathway to citizenship that is applicable to all.
I appreciate at least that there. Thank you, Lynn, for your call. I appreciate Lynn's thoughtfulness on how can we at least exact something that's a benefit to us instead of this liberal notion of, well, you're here now and it just would be wrong to send you out, so let's just make you a citizen. Lynn's approach, which there's parts of it I understand, there's parts I just disagree with. I at least appreciate that the thought is, how can we make them more American? They got to learn the English thing. How can we get something out of them? I appreciate that part of it. Lynn's line is open at 303-696-1971. And I'm sure, Billy, I imagine you told me there was somebody else on the line, and for the love of Pete, yeah. Well, Frank, hold on one sec, man. Let me do this. Let me tell you that there's no ribble like gay ribble like no ribble, Gay is that superstar realtor. Just after I said it, I'm sure that's exactly how she wants her live read to go. There's no ripple like a ripple like. She and her team at the Power Home team at Keller Williams, on a routine basis, and I mean on a daily basis, get calls from people who need to get out of their current house. Maybe they just want to get out of their current house and got to get into a better situation. And they do both ends of that at levels that other realtors just can't figure out how to do. It's why they sell faster for more. They guarantee to sell your house at the time and the price that you agree to, or they make up for it with the cash. Who does that? I just saw a thing, top of Drudge Report right here. House sales slowest in 20 years. That means it's competitive, folks. That means it's challenging. You know who can meet that challenge? Who can meet that competition? Gay Ribble. Give her a call at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. But I'd go to the website, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com, sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. Frank, you're on 710. What do you think, sir?
Hey, George, thanks for what you and Billy do. You're always a great help to let people
thank you.
air all their issues. While I was sitting there at home, I think I came up with a name for your show on Friday, the Friday morning legislative forum, to come up with ideas so that congressmen can tune in. Because now I know
I like it.
Well, now I know why the people that with good intentions get elected to go off to Washington and get polluted, and half of them come back alcoholics and millionaires, but they never really come up with any meaningful stuff because of what Tamra Ryan said about the complicated nature of all these problems. It depends on how big scope you want to look at, but this immigration problem is obviously huge. But I'm afraid it's been co-opted by the Democrats to try to gain voters in the long run, to try to have a one-party thing, which I'm not in favor of because I think that's a danger to the country. I think if people would listen to the words of Trump from many years ago when he was in office, he wanted some type of vetting system to say, how can these people be plugged into needed jobs or jobs they want to do or trained? And I think that's the way it ought to go. You know, I think you do actually have to give some credit to the CIA. Are you familiar with the CIA Book of Known Knowledge?
No.
If you go to Barnes & Noble every year, somewhere in the reference section, there's this huge volume that's titled CIA Book of Known Knowledge. And I think they publish it every year.
Billy says it's a pamphlet, but I think he's being funny.
No, well, it may be a monthly as well, but it's also compounded into a big book that you can buy.
Yeah.
Tons of facts, thousands and millions of facts. But guess what? They're probably already downloading that into some AI program right now for the answers. So Congress won't be needed in the future. We'll just go to AI and get the answer. That's a spoof, but unfortunately, they're gonna do some of that. But some of this knowledge, and it's a new commodity, has really value because of this thing that Jim was talking about, of all these businesses needing these people. Well, there's a perfect opportunity for a pathway to vet these people, let the businesses that need them give them tests either online or somehow, and find the potential people and then sponsor them to come in. There's one answer for some of the immigrants, that if we believe this thing that we need all these people to work. And the strength of any countries is GNP. And, you know, if we don't have workers, we don't have GNP. Well, we don't want criminals and crooks and thieves and murderers and rapists and robbers. You know, that's what Trump was trying to say, that a lot of these countries are dumping not their best, but their worst. So we need to put our American ingenuity to a better thing. I'm big on the pharmaceutical thing. I want to bring the pharmaceutical industry back here so the supply chain is not polluted like in some, say, from China. But the drugs would cost more, but you could adjust that somehow. But I just want purity in the pharmaceutical line. But so many problems.
I like the idea of the businesses sponsoring and all that stuff. I could get behind that. Two questions though, and we've sort of been talking about this for a bit. From a moral standpoint, should we feel some compulsion to do something with those who are here, independent of that bigger fix that you're talking about? That's a longer term fix. What do you do with the parents of the, you know, anchor babies or dreamers or whatever you want to call them? And what do you do with those who, whether you agree or disagree, the Biden administration has stamped off on their forms calling them asylum? What do we do with them?
Well, first you got to identify them, then you got to find out what they're all about, then you got to re-put them back through the entry process, however long that takes. It might be penalized for a few years for coming in illegally, but if they truly want to be Americans, and that's great, but you have to put them through some kind of vetting process and education process to become, Americans. Tamra, talks about that Colorado Women's Bean Project. That's such a great success with putting women who are not having any way of making a living into productive life. There was another thing I just heard about, I think the church group or somebody that sponsored guys in the homeless population who would like to or be interested in becoming welders, and taught them how to become welders. And all of a sudden, these guys, some of them are earning 80 grand or 100 grand.
Oh, man.
It's amazing. So there's a lot of jobs out there. We're just not real good at matching up the potential talent, but it does take a certain discipline, losing some of your drug problems and doing some counseling for your mental problems to make these people more productive citizens. And that all adds to the bottom line GNP. Gross national product.
I'm afraid when you say crazy things like welders can make $85,000 a year, Billy is now Googling welder school, near
Welding's
Aurora.
a lot of fun. Just don't. There's different kind of fumes in Billy's inhaling right now.
Frank, thanks for the phone call, man. Have a great weekend. I appreciate it. I just love the thoughtfulness. I also like the idea that we turn either Monday or Friday to some sort of legislative ideas. I'm sure we'd get funny ones. I'm sure we'd get some crazy ones, but there's some good ones in there, man. And I thought those were some good ideas. I just don't know that we're ever going to get a fix to this that really matters until we get control of the border. And I'm going to say this again. If anybody tells you we can do that at the same time that would create a path for citizenship, you have to reject that, because until, the best example I heard, and I don't even know if she came up with it, was Ann Coulter, who said, when the tub is overflowing, you don't get on the ground to start sopping up the extra water until you've turned off the spigot. That's just a perfect analogy to the problem. And we just got to figure out what to do. But then once we turn it off, what do we do with all the water in the tub? I mean, that's the $10 billion question. And we haven't solved it here, but we've had some great ideas. Listen, we're going to cut away for break. I'll talk to you about something I'm going to be doing after the show. We've talked about it on air. It's going to be some resolution of a sort on a case that we know pretty darn well. Before we do that, though, I want to tell you about our friends at Ultra Botanica. They have that ultra curcumin-based patented supplement. It's an antioxidant. It's an anti-inflammatory. I've taken it. Billy's taken it. Billy thought it was going to make him taller. It doesn't make you taller, as it turns out. All it does, and it's a big deal, is it's a health enhancer. You feel better on it. And what I noticed in particular was when I was running, when I was dragging this old body around town trying to get myself in shape for a big, long run in October, I still felt pain. It's not like it's a panacea for everything, but that pain didn't last as long. My ankles and my knees, it just went away more quickly. And that's a testament to the power of this thing. You go check it out at getultranow.com, getultranow.com. But get in your car, drive over, or ride the bike or the train or whatever the Dems would want you to do. But get over to your natural grocers. Ask the vitamin manager for your free 3-day supply. Give it a shot. When it does something for you, then you're going to hop back online and you're going to order the 30-day supply. But until then, go try it out for free. You're going to experience relief. Most likely, this is what the numbers say, in well less than those 3 days, half in 48 hours, half of that group within 2. GetUltraNow.com, GetUltraNow.com. I'm going to cut away for a break. When we come back, we'll get to your calls, your texts. We'll wrap up the show. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here. Final segment, 710 KNUS. Some of the texts that I'll read to you before I give you the information about that case I teased you about. It says Trump tried to not force feed some of his policies all at once. And he had, here's what it was. It was, come on, George, Trump had to deal with COVID for 2 years and it redirected the direction of some of his goals. Why can't that fact be brought up? And my answer was because he had a GOP-led Congress for 2 years before COVID. That was his primary goal. You can't say, hey, he tried not to, and this is what it was. He tried not to force feed some of his policies all at once. No. When you campaigned as your primary thing on controlling the border, closing it down, building a wall and getting Mexico to pay for it, you don't get to say, well, once I got in, I thought I'd baby step my way through some of these things. Another one, George, totally agree with you about if they came here illegally. I don't want them to become citizens. They came cheating, and what also astounds me is why would you want to come to a country that people don't want you? Well, I don't know that they know that people don't want them. They know that the laws are here that'll protect them. They know that they're going to have a better life economically and probably from a safety standpoint, especially for Venezuela, my God. So I get that part of it, even if people look down their nose at you. But I also think someone explain to me why, fill in the blank here. When someone breaks into the country, when someone comes here in violation of our laws, they should be a citizen because ... I'm just looking for that answer. Maybe that's a different show. Here's another. I don't think anybody's realized these people have not been vetted. They haven't been vaccinated. That's true. The chickenpox thing is real. And if they come in legally, they usually try to do that. Most of these are illegal. They've had crimes and they've had crimes in their own countries, or they've been criminals. I don't think we know that. You can't say that we don't know who they are and then say most of them are. That's not fair. Some of them likely, but you can't say most of them. In this country, and deported given any kind of amnesty is a huge mistake. I agree with that. Whether you like it or not, what do you think will happen when they don't get what they want? They cause most of the crime. No, they don't cause most of the crime. They're involved in crime, no doubt. They don't cause most of the crime. I'd say 90% of the crime in this country are created and committed by illegals. That's just provably false. That is just simply not true. They do have an impact on crime. They are not the source of 90% of the crime. That just isn't accurate. We are the source of at least 90% of the crime. 303-696-1971 was the number, but I don't have time to take your call. As soon as I say that, I look at the clock. Let me tell you what I'm going to do after this. I'm going to get off here. I'm going to get a little cleaned up, and I'm going to drive to the Arapahoe County Courthouse, because guess who gets sentenced today, 11 o'clock? Robin Nicetta faces sentencing for that very first trial where she was convicted of everything. She has another one hanging out there. I'm going to go to support Aurora City Councilwoman and friend Danielle Jurinsky. We will report on Monday, hopefully with Danielle, how that turned out, the impact on her, how she thinks it's brought her closure or maybe not. But I'm going to go to that right after this. Go online and see if you can watch it and stream it at Colorado Court something or other. If you Google it, you'll find it. Hey, listen, thanks to everybody, Tamra, Ryan, and everybody else. Billy, thank you for a great week. I'll see you on Monday. Stick around for the National, guys. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.